Spoilers?
Check.
Mature language?
Check.
Viewers beware?
Check.
The Marvel superheroes have arrived. Captain America,
Fantastic Four,
Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Spider-Woman, the God of Thunder,
Welcome to the Marvel Superheroes Podcast. I'm a Legal Machine, and with me is...
Mr. Fixit.
And...
Diabolu Frank.
And tonight, we're going to talk about... Avengers Age of Ultron movie.
Ultron.
And we're going to have tons of spoilers. We're going to get really deep in depth. So if you have not seen the movie, you're going to have to stop.
If you're a spoiler liker, though, this will be good.
Yeah, if you enjoy spoilers, then you can jump into that.
You've come to the right place, ladies and gentlemen. Brief synopsis of Avengers Age of Ultron. The plot revolves around Tony Stark believing that he has found a key to completing the Avengers mission altogether, which is stopping crime. That's the whole point of the Avengers, is stopping the need for the Avengers. He believes he's found the answer for this when they finally get Loki's staff away from Baron von Strucker. It's basically the Infinity Gem, and they realize that if they were to implant that into Tony Stark's Iron Legion, that the Legion would then become sentient enough that they could handle all the business. Avengers can retire. So he and Bruce Banner take a whack at this, what's coined the Ultron Initiative. Obviously, shit done backfire.
Dude, that was a one long-ass movie, too.
Yeah, like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
141, I believe.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's that long?
It felt long.
Really?
The only one thing was it was an orgy of action. It was just bam, 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 bam.
Did you watch the most recent episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? The one that serves as a prelude to Age of Ultron.
No, I didn't catch that one.
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season has been building up toward a confrontation between the various factions of S.H.I.E.L.D. that continue to exist despite the fact that it's been branded a terrorist organization working underground, and the secret society of enhanced beings called the Inhumans.
But let me ask you, okay, are they actual pieces of S.H.I.E.L.D. or like some of them Hydra?
To date, we're aware of two different branches of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's the one that Coulson's running, and there's another one run by a fella named Gonzalez, a.k.a. General Adamo on Battlestar
Yeah, I was
Galactica.
with Edward James Olmos.
Yeah. At the end of the Tuesday night episode, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the original group, got together, even though obviously it was very contentious because of the stuff that happened in the first season. They all get together to raid a Hydra base to rescue two friends of the group, Deathlock and this fellow...
I know
who's
who
one
you're
of the Inhumans,
Yeah.
The assumption is that that's the reason why Coulson wants to go in, but it turns out Coulson was pulling a Black Widow, and he had actually gone into the base to acquire information on Hydra. So one of the muckety-mucks in Hydra, Dr. List, he escapes from the base, and he turns up in the beginning of Age of Ultron. He's the guy who's talking with Baron Strucker as they're having the siege at the mansion. And it was actually Coulson's information that allowed them to determine where Loki's staff was and to direct the Avengers to that base so that they could raid it. That's how the Avengers knew to go to that base and attack Strucker. I'm not sure if they had information on the twins.
Yeah.
One of the Inhumans characters, Reyna, she had a vision of the events of Age of Ultron with the Metal Men attacking the world. So, of course, the movie starts out with the Avengers striking Baron Strucker's stronghold in, the Balkans or someplace like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Scandinavia or something, I don't know.
In the snow. It's the classic Avengers team of the movies, we should say. Strucker has strong forces with energy cannons. It's the kind of stuff that Hydra is known to have had since the 40s. Strucker wants to surrender and try to prevent the Avengers from finding out about some of the secret stuff he's been working on, which includes creating metahumans, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. And it's probably, actually, it occurs to me too, he must have been playing around with Terrigen Mist, which is something that's been handled extensively in the current season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. So there is actually a closer tie than I realized until just now, actually. So the twins decide that they're going to fight back against the Avengers, and that leads to Tony Stark being shown a vision of the Avengers destroyed, all of them dead, and causes him to start working on this Ultron initiative where they use technology they found at Strucker's stronghold to create a robot police force, which of course goes awry because Ultron is fucking crazy.
He wasn't crazy. I think he mistook his mission.
Let's try to break it down segment by segment. The Avengers raid Baron Strucker's base. What did y'all think about that sequence?
I'll take this one. I thought the special effects were pretty fucking terrible.
Really?
I thought that opening scene, the effects seemed worse than the rest of the movie. I don't know what it was. Something seemed off.
Actually,
Iron
most
Man
of the
seemed
movie
off.
had kind of funky green screen effects. A lot of the movie seemed really fake.
But it seemed like the opening sequence was worse to me than the rest of it. Well, I don't know what it was, and I have since read some reviews, and for some reason other people are pointing out that opening scene, so I know it wasn't just me. Something was weird about that. Are you talking about
the big pan shot where they tried to redo the trademark shot from the first Avengers, where they're panning over the battle and showing everybody in action? Is that where you had an issue?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about the now iconic leap?
That looked worse than I thought it was going to look. I thought all of the human...
It's a great GIF. It's a little trickier on the big screen.
Yeah, I thought all of the human... I thought Hulk did not look particularly good in those scenes. I thought Cap launching his motorcycle into that fucking truck was fantastic.
That was fucking great. I love that,
that was awesome. And that was why I didn't want you to see that trailer. It's because
I'd seen it, unfortunately. I didn't see that specific trailer, but I'd seen it somewhere else. Because that's a problem that I actually had, is a lot of the great action beats in this movie are spoiled in the commercials. It's really shitty how they did that.
Yep. I thought that, and I understand... and we're going to come to this a lot as we discuss this. I understand Tony Stark had to get out of the armor, find the secret door, and walk completely unarmored through the baddie's base into their secret lair for no reason. Like, I know he put the armor in sentry mode so that it's supposed to be protecting him, but that makes no sense at all. And I know that plays to how cocky... I know. Tony Stark is so cocky that he thinks that he's basically invincible and can get away with shit like that, but that was dumb. The entire time he's doing it, I'm like, are they really doing this?
Well, you know why they do it, though.
This is how Tony Stark's going to get got. Well, I know. They do it so that he can have...
the Vision.
No. They do it because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to wear the fucking suit.
He doesn't want to wear the fucking
He makes $50 million for these fucking movies, and he's not willing to put on the damn suit any more than he absolutely has to.
Conceivably, he'd have to be walking around in that scene without the helmet on so that she can do her little trick to him, I guess.
Well, there's no reason to assume
no reason
that...
she can even...
Yeah, right. She's got...
For effect, though, he probably needs to have the helmet
off.
It
looks cooler with the helmet off.
So that whole time I was like, this is kind of dumb. I thought Von Strucker was super cornball. When he'd fall down and go, when he falls down and all that stuff. I didn't like any of that. I thought that was way too hokey.
So is there any aspects of the Strucker sequence you did like?
I'm not done telling you the stuff I didn't like about it. I thought that the Captain America joke, watch your language, was super lame.
And it went too long.
They threaded that throughout the movie, and each time they did it, I was like, that wasn't really funny the first time. I don't understand why.
I liked it. I thought he was cute, because they were ribbing him.
No, I know, but it wasn't effective to me. Hey guys, watch your language. Like, why would he tell them to watch their language? Like, that doesn't even...
He just said language. Because that's something that kind of struck me, too.
I know.
Here it is the first 5 minutes of a Marvel Avengers movie where the kids are going to be watching, and Tony Stark says shit.
I know.
And Cap just goes, language. They played with that, because I could see that
I don't
response.
think they did it right,
but I even felt like that. It's like, man, they already said shit. This movie just barely got started. And I like that it paid off, because I had that reaction. And I bet you a lot of parents watch that movie. He says shit, and they just start to ping to it. They just start to bristle, and then the joke comes in and it completely softens that blow.
I did too. I think it's because they used it 5 more times in the movie that it affected I wish they just would have never done it.
So what? You might have liked the joke the first time, and because they kept using it.
Then I wish it just wasn't in the movie. I wish he would have just. I just wish he wouldn't have said shit, and then we would have just had the action sequence.
I think you're a little tough on it.
Here, you can have your opinion in a second. You piece of shit. Sorry. Language. What I did like. No, that's it. I didn't like any of that. I really didn't care for that entire scene.
You're trying to Mr. Fixit.
I think Max is being Mac as usual. Fucking anal retentive as hell. I thought the scene was fine. They had to play it up so they could get the damn staff. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Sorry, I forgot the part. Okay, what I did like, I thought they did a really good job of showing all of them in action at one time, which is extremely difficult to do. To have an entire super team of some guys who are grounded on the ground and gods and guys in armor that can fly around, having them all work together, and they all felt like they had a purpose there. They did a pretty good job of that. They do a better job later on throughout the movie, showing that each Avenger has a role. Like, there's a reason why the guy with the bow and arrow was there. So I thought that was good. That's not easy. I liked the Black Widow Hulk scene, how she calms him down.
Lullaby.
I liked the lullaby. I liked them setting all that up. Thor vanished. Right? Didn't he vanish?
No, Hawkeye was injured, and Thor took him away.
Thor has to take right.
But see, I think that's where you were talking about how the effects were weird. The scene where Thor jumps and starts hitting those Hydra guys, his body didn't move naturally. There were certain scenes where the CG, not so much the anatomy, but just the movement of a body.
The physics of the body movement.
Iron Man, when Iron Man lands on the castle and kind of slides,
it just seems
like
weird,
contorted and looks weird. It's something. And I'm not saying there weren't inconsistencies throughout the movie. I just think there were more of them in that opening scene where you're really focused. Oh shit, here's the Avengers, and something wasn't right in that opening scene. I didn't hate the scene. Didn't
you just say you hated it?
I didn't hate the scene. I know.
I think you can hear the disappointment in his voice. I think disappointed might have been a better.
I think that the scene felt a little rushed.
You give your impressions of the scene. Okay. I apologize.
I like the battle. I like the Hulk. They used him a lot better this time. The lullaby I thought was cool. I liked Iron Man's play. Like they were all playing, but still fighting. I thought Hawkeye was a lot more interesting this time around, especially in the beginning. I love the fact when he launched the arrow and Quicksilver grabs it and he's sitting there by the tree and he's like, what the fuck? And he turns back.
That was good.
I thought that was kind of cool because they still hadn't interacted with the other characters yet. It threw them off their game a little bit. The Cap throwing the motorcycle, I just thought like that was another one of those scenes to me. It just felt weird. It didn't take me out of the movie though. It felt like, to me, it seems like those scenes took you out of the movie for a bit. None of those scenes ever took me out of the movie. I got what they were trying to do. They literally were like, boom, here we are. Let's go. You do realize that Josh, he's recognized for doing that really cutesy weird humor where Baron,
and we're gonna get to that later.
Yeah, and so that part where he gets Cap kicks him with a shield and he kind of finishes his sentence with a I was like, it's cute, and I heard people laugh. They got the response they were looking for. I wouldn't have laughed at it, but the people next to me laughed at it. I enjoyed the scene. I mean, it was a cool build up. I love that he's telling his group, we're not gonna surrender, and he turns around like, okay, so I'm gonna surrender.
Yeah, that was funny.
And he's like, we're just shit out of luck. So let's hope they dig only so far and don't dig too deep, which I thought was cool.
Well, and I like that. See, now that was, to me, that's good humor because he was so adamant to his men. He's like, no, we're not surrendering. We're going to take... And, of course, you're like, dude, how the hell are you going to be Iron Man and Thor and Hulk, right? This is so stupid. And then he turns to the guy and goes, we're totally surrendering. I'm like, okay. So that put me back in. Like, I'm all right, good.
So that little bit of humor...
That one caught me. That was good. Von Strucker's supposed to be kind of a badass.
Yeah,
and he was a little... He was just like,
well, I think they had too much going on.
Here's the kind of beginning of something that bothered me throughout the movie was started in this scene. Whereas they don't have time. They try and make it feel like this is like this huge base. But because they have to make the movie 2 hours and 20 minutes long, people just bumping into each other left and right. Like Captain America opens up a door and Von Strucker's right there. This is like this big castle. Yeah. And then Iron Man flies in right through the window. And then there's you know what I mean? I feel like they're in one little room.
And they're all bumping into the main thing. Yeah.
Well, there's no time for running down hallways.
Real quick, I'm curious. That one major shot from all the trailers where Cap kicks open the wooden door. Is that in the movie? Because I don't remember that at all. Okay, I just want to check that.
That'll be on the extended Blu-ray Essentials edition where he'll uncut.
Count Druncula, one of our regular listeners and occasional guest, he likes doing these fan casts where he'll go on Tumblr and he'll fan cast an entire comic book movie with different actors. And he once did one for the Martian Manhunter. One of the Martian Manhunter's main villains is Commander Blanks, this very militaristic fellow. Druncula cast this actor, German actor Thomas Kretschmann. I wasn't familiar with his work, but he looked good, kind of interesting. That's cool. So I just gave him a thumbs up, not really knowing too much about the guy. And then he gets cast as Baron von Strucker. So I thought that was kind of cute. And I grew up reading a lot of the Nick Fury stuff. Von Strucker is the main nemesis of Nick Fury. He fought Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos back in World War II. And then later on, when Hydra came up, Strucker was also the head of Hydra. If there's anybody who's a major force in Hydra, like the main guy that you got to worry about in that group, it's Baron von Strucker. And one of the major problems I had with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is here's a S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and they're fighting everybody but Hydra. It becomes clear why that is later on because of how important Hydra was going to be to the Captain America the Winter Soldier movie. I'm fine with that. But there's still a show called Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they're still fighting Hydra, and this entire season people have been referencing Strucker. And they had this one character named Whitehall who is this very sinister, very unethical Nazi. They did a great job where they lace him through where he meets Agent Carter and the Howling Commandos in World War II, and then because of his experimentations with things like eugenics, he's still alive in the modern era. And he's just a cool character that's very important to the backstory of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then once his story wrapped up, partway through the season, they introduced another guy called Dr. List who's doing a lot of the same type of stuff that they are attributing to Strucker. And Dr. List, as I mentioned, he's the guy who goes from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to appearing in Age of Ultron. After building up Strucker so much, and this is supposed to be like the main guy in Hydra, and then he's dealt with so cavalierly, and he's rendered unusable by the end of the movie, that it hurts Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They could have had Strucker all this time. They could have been using either this actor or another actor to play Strucker because you didn't need anybody major considering how little of a role he has in Age of Ultron. Again, this is one of the main guys that Nick Fury fought all these years, and then they just toss him aside like he's nothing. And now we have these analogs, these fake Struckers that are turning up in S.H.I.E.L.D. that are superior to the character that appeared in the Marvel movie. I'm very disappointed in that. If you're going to have a guy who you're just going to toss aside like that, either make him the Whitehall or come up with a more obscure obscure, more minor character for the Avengers to fight, since all you need is an evil Euro.
So
you don't need to go there.
The fact that they've been referencing him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this entire time makes it even stupider. Because I already felt similarly. He ain't coming back for a Captain America movie, because we find out later on he's murdered.
Off screen.
They totally, like, they show him on an iPad, and I'm like, that's what you use Von Strucker for? We're gonna run the fuck out of Captain America villains that are worth a shit real fast at this rate, if that's what they're gonna fucking do.
Well, I don't think they want to deal with all the Nazis, and there's a lot of Nazis. It dates your universe when you keep bringing up these Nazis, and I don't think they wanted to explain anything with Von Strucker, but you know what?
They don't use him.
So, yeah, that was a disappointment to me. I really enjoyed the opening sequence. I thought they handled all those characters well. It was exciting. It was the exact opposite of Avengers Assemble in the UK, Marvel's Avengers here in the US, where that movie has 20 minutes of, geez, are they going to mess up the Avengers? This is kind of boring, and then it gets good. This one, I thought they wanted to come out of the gate strong. I thought they did. I really enjoyed the comedy. I thought that they had good timing. I liked the witticisms of Tony. I liked that everybody had a different form of humor. They're still using the same humor with Cap, where he's a man out of time, and he says the wrong thing, as soon as he says it, he's regretting it. I like that each one of the characters had their own form of comedy. It wasn't like everybody suddenly decided to become a smart ass or something.
Yeah.
And I thought the action was very well handled. My only issue was I wanted them to do more with Strucker than they did, and they turned him into such a joke that it hurts the Marvel properties that are tied into Hydra, because he was such a useless character. And he's a cool looking actor too. They could have done a little bit more with him, and I wish they had. I don't understand too, it doesn't make sense why he wouldn't want to use the twins if he's going to be so thoroughly defeated in this point in time.
Well, I think he just didn't want to show that hand. I think he actually thought he was going to move on.
Well, he said he was going to surrender, so was he going to just try to send them off somewhere or use them as sleepers? Or I don't know what he was planning to do. I guess it doesn't matter because it didn't come to fruition anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
As far as the Black Widow Hulk thing, I thought that was okay. I thought it was just, a way of managing the Hulk. It's when that developed further that I started to have a little bit of issues.
So, Fury has released everything to the public.
Everything he knows about.
Yes, Strucker, if they get word of our work here, if they find out we serve Hydra,
S.H.I.E.L.D. Two sides of a coin that's no longer currency.
So from there, Bruce Banner and Tony Stark are analyzing Loki's staff, which ties into the creation of Ultron. And then that leads to a dinner party where they have a ton of cameos. A good chunk of the Marvel Cinematic Universe turns up for this party. A lot of jokes, a lot of fun, and then Ultron crashes the party. Mr. Fixit, what did you like about that sequence?
Well, we've seen it 1,000 times, at least I have on...
I think the scene's longer than the hammer pickup scene. There's a lot more of those scenes than...
Someone had released it online for a while, and I had seen it.
The whole thing? Even the Natasha and Banner stuff?
Yeah. I remember seeing all of that.
A 15, 20-minute long scene.
Except, the only scene they cut out was whenever Banner went, "Wah, wah," the roaring part. That's the only part I had never seen. That was new to me. But I had seen that scene.
They cut Clint, too. The part where Clint tries to pick it up, that wasn't
okay. Yeah, I mean, but I'd pretty much seen that whole scene.
But there was all the other stuff at the party too. There was the hardcore flirting between Black Widow and Bruce Banner.
That's what I'm saying. That actually, at the bar, the whole scene at the bar. You saw that entire scene.
No.
Where Natasha's behind the bar. And that's what I'm saying.
The lead up where they're trying to pick up Thor's.
No,
but there's the party around that.
That's like 30 seconds of the whole scene.
I mean, that was more for Stan Lee. Let's be honest.
But that, again, like you got the Stan Lee moment. You've got Cap talking with the Falcon. You've got the stuff with the great. I love the bit where the actor's Don Cheadle. I'm trying to remember the character.
War Machine?
James Rhodes?
Yeah, Jim Rhodes. Where Jim Rhodes is trying to tell his story.
Oh, yeah, telling that story.
Yeah, great bit.
And they're like, and?
Yeah.
That's the end of the story?
And he's such a great actor.
this whole scene from start to finish.
When he tells the story to the other group of people, and he sells it with the body.
And he looks at the dude like, nailed it. Got him.
It's awesome.
I loved that part. I loved when Tony and Thor are dick measuring their girlfriends.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, she's just the leader of the, a multi-billion-dollar company or whatever, and she's like, I think she's gonna get a Pulitzer. I think is what it's called.
Prize.
A Nobel Prize.
Across her appearances in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the two Avengers movies, the best scene ever with Maria Hill was her calling those two guys out.
Yeah.
Easily the best scene with that character.
I loved that part. Here's what I hated. We're going to talk a lot about what I hate in this movie.
I can see.
We're going to get to it. I thought the scene with Banner and Natasha, I see what they were trying to do. Where she's behind the bar, and she's like, I'm looking for this guy, but he's so... And he's all like, well, what's up with this guy? And she's like, he's a nice guy, but sometimes he's a bad guy. And he's like, It was the most mind-numbingly scene of shitty one-liners and cliches going back and forth.
I thought it was awkward.
It was excruciating.
Here is what...
That was painful.
This is how I describe it. It was like, they said, okay, we just want you to give one of these one-liners, Scarlett, just read it into the camera. So she made the same face with her chin pointing out, and she goes, something, something. And they go, okay, cut. Now do this line. And she goes, something, something, something. And they go, cut. Now do this line, something, something, something. And then they look at them all in the editing room. They're like, well, shit, which one of these do we like the best? And they say, fuck it, we like all 20 of them. Just put it in, and we'll make it like they're having a conversation. Because her face was pointing the same way. She had the same mannerism as she said the 5-word one-liner, and then it would go to Banner, and he would say something, and they would come back to... And it's like, I didn't even feel like the conversation lined up. And I know they had to do some weird shit because she was pregnant in this movie.
I was about to say, that was the My Face photo shot. The girl who's got a few pounds on.
MySpace.
It's supposed to look at the camera a certain way so that you kind of hide the chin.
Where they're like, hey, honey, you're like 8 months pregnant. You need to kind of push your chin out a little bit because you're getting a little bit of roll there.
And she's behind the bar. You know that's what they were doing.
So she looks, and I almost feel like the CG touched it up a little bit because I've heard that they had to do a little bit of CG here on her too. Because the whole scene to me, I was like, can this end? Or like I get it. She's talking about Banner, and Banner's not really getting why she's coming on to him.
Well,
I
he's
get
trying to. He gets it. He just doesn't know how to flirt.
He's being right, and Ruffalo was fine in that scene, I guess, because his didn't seem so repetitive. But I was like, this is terrible. This is killing the whole scene right now, and it went way too long, and it sucks. I like. Here's what I wish they would have done, and I know this is a Whedon thing. He loves his one-liners, and I'm gonna keep coming back to this shit the whole fucking podcast right now. Sometimes he's trying to have talking heads talk. He's trying to have a little talking head conversation between superheroes because that doesn't fucking ever happen in any of these movies, right? He's trying to show you these are people too, and they want to talk. That's great. People talk though, and I feel like some of the dialogue in these conversations, it wasn't a conversation. Like I said, they were just slinging one-liners back and forth. And sometimes, it's a superhero movie, I get it. And you got a lot of great actors with a lot of great personalities, but I feel, like I said with Johansson, I felt like he wrote down 21 liners and said, just read all these, and she read them, and then he pieced together a conversation out of them. Like, I didn't feel like they were two people talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was too clever,
she was trying to open
artificial.
up. She was trying to open up. He was trying to be sort of the awkward, are you kidding me? I'm the freaking Incredible Hulk, and you're an attractive woman is actually talking to me. It was not, I saw what he was trying to do. I appreciate it. I don't even have a problem with Natasha and Bruce hooking up in the movie because I realize at this point they're making their own universe, so you kind of have to start cutting loose some of the strings to the Marvel universe. The scene because I loved everything else. I loved Excelsior.
Yeah, that was a great whole sequence.
All the James Rhodes stuff. When the story bombs, and then when the story is a success, and Thor and Stark, and it was, and then the hammer lifting. It was all fantastic. But I thought that nearly killed the whole damn thing because all I'm thinking of how awkward she looks. And it was terrible. Unfortunately, that was the part that keeps sticking out in my head, and I freaking hate it. Yeah. All in all, though, I loved the scene. I loved that scene. I would watch the scene again, but it's gonna take me a little bit to get through that. It was really poorly done.
I'm gonna say this once, so I don't say it too many times over the podcast. I'm the only one of the three of us that's seen the movie twice now. I was okay with the scene the first time I saw it, and then the second time it was excruciating. It was painful watching that happen because it was so fake. Like you said, the shots were fake. It just didn't feel right, and I do have a problem with the whole Black Widow Hulk thing because I don't know if y'all heard, there was a big hubbub about how Black Widow ended up with the Hulk after, first she's trying to seduce Iron Man in her first movie appearance, Iron Man 2. And then, of course, there was a strong flirtation in The Winter Soldier. And then her intimacy with the Hawkeye character in the first Avengers had people shipping her. And then she ends up with Hulk. So they asked...
Chris Evans.
It was Chris Evans and Jennifer Miner about her. And they made some kind of goofy
She's a slut. He was like, she's a slut.
And while obviously that was low-hanging fruit to the point where it was dirty and nasty and gross, and they probably shouldn't have done that. They made this big deal about it, but it is kind of hard not to see that they just sort of passed her around until they finally found one that worked for this particular movie because everybody else has stuff to do. Captain America needs to stay available for his movies. Tony and Thor are already tied up with their girlfriends, so the two that were left that were available were those two. And intellectually, I can see how that would work because they told you that in the movie. Everybody else is a fighter. Everybody else has got their own thing going, so she likes the more quiet, nerdy guy who isn't so the testosterone. He's not like the even though he becomes the Hulk, he's a dork and he's a sweet guy and all that kind of stuff. But the problem is, if they had made that subtext, if they'd done it more gracefully, I might have been able to buy it. But because they actually have the characters tell you this stuff very overtly, I'm into you because of this reason right here, it felt so fake. And throughout the movie, every time they put those two characters together and tried to have relationship stuff with them, it felt
didn't work.
Phony to me. They had no chemistry in that way. You could tell that these were two people that were friends in real life who they were trying to make work in a relationship in this movie.
Yeah.
And And this is something that's true of a lot of the Marvel movies, because you have the same problem with Thor and Jane Foster in the Thor movies. Do not buy the relationship. It doesn't work. They don't. And that's why many people hate a lot of people hate Gwyneth Paltrow, but you've got to admit her chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. in those Iron Man movies is fantastic.
Yeah.
Even if you hate her, you cannot deny how great those two actors work off of each other in those movies.
It's certainly way better than anything else they've got in any of these movies.
But see, I think you're giving her too much, Gwyneth Paltrow, too much.
Actually, I think Pepper Potts is awesome. I love her as an actress in that role.
I think the way they jab at each other, it works way better than it works in any of these other
Too much credit. No, but I honestly, I think Robert Downey Jr., he's just that fucking good of an actor. Every time he was on scene, I won't lie, during the Avengers 2 movie, every time he was on scene, I enjoyed it. There was never once where I was kind of like, okay, he's a little. It just I enjoyed him in the entire movie. That was the one character. I do have to admit he's the most consistently good actor in the movie, no question. Yeah.
Okay, and I was going to get to that eventually, Bob. You can bring it up here
because one of the worst scenes.
Robert Downey Jr.'s back.
Yeah.
Because Tony Stark was killed in Iron Man 3. It was there was way too much Shane Black writing sarcasm that it didn't work anymore. And this got back to, I was like, okay, this feels like Tony Stark from Iron Man 2, Avengers 1, Iron Man 1. Because it did not feel right in Iron Man 3. Nothing, and I was like, shit. Is this now Robert Downey Jr. having the reins taken off of him? Or what? They reeled him back in or let him loose or whatever it was they did. They found that undulation that he needed.
That sweet spot.
Yeah, they found the sweet spot with Tony because he was great in this movie.
No, the whole time, I didn't think he had enough screen time. I actually enjoyed him so much on the screen.
I still think he was very much the star of the movie.
I think so too. I'm a huge Hulk fan, but I would say Tony was definitely
and Cap,
the star.
You could tell he and Cap were starting to take it over.
Iron Man was very much the star of the first Avengers. I do think they dialed him back in this movie quite a bit. I do think that Captain America got a lot more material in this movie than he had previously.
And so did Chris Evans.
And so did, everybody. Hawkeye. And to some extent, it hurt the movie because there was so much time was spent on Bruce Banner and Black Widow especially. I really hated that story arc. Yeah. And a lot of time was spent with Jeremy Renner's character, and a lot of that was good, but some of it wasn't so good.
Actually,
I could have used more Robert Downey Jr. in the movie. I think that...
It's more cowbell. He wants more cowbell.
Yeah, I think that one thing that hurts this movie in comparison to the first is that there wasn't enough Robert Downey Jr. and there was too much people who were not Robert Downey Jr.
Here's my issue. I totally see that, but here is where I can't get mad at that. It's that they were all good. I thought Chris Evans, this was the best movie. I mean, not Chris Evans. He was very good too. I thought that Thor.
Oh.
This was his best movie.
I completely disagree with you.
Really?
180 degree completely disagree with you.
He was better than he was in Thor number 1 because he was a mannequin Thor number 1.
I disagree.
He was hardly in Avengers number 1. I felt like he was hardly even in Avengers number 1.
He was more of a punchline, I felt.
Right, but I thought he was great in the party scene. He was great in other scenes that we're getting to this earlier than I thought we were, so I haven't thought this point out enough.
Okay.
But he was good. He was good in this movie.
No, I actually think of everything that Thor's appeared in, this is the worst thing. Because in the first Avengers, they got a lot of action out of him being a god and playing the other characters off of his pretensions. And
Loki was in it too.
Yeah, and Loki was in it. And that was an important part too, is Thor's relationship with Loki was truer in Avengers than it was in the first Thor movie. But the first Thor movie was fun because he was such a big, broad, ridiculous character. He was a lot of fun in that movie. And then the second Thor, which previously was the worst Thor appearance, but at least it was a movie about Thor, so he got time to have his moments. Whereas with this movie, I was like, most of this movie, I was like, what is this guy doing here? With the exception of the party scene, he was fun there. I liked the joke where Banner is feeling guilty about hulking out, and Thor says the exact wrong thing.
Oh, yeah.
But
your victims are crying at the gates of hell or whatever.
Yeah, he's like,
and he was like, "Oh shit! Oh
no. Now they have.
They're whimpering.
They're whimpering with broken ankles and bruises.
How long before you trust me?
It's not you I don't trust.
Thor report on the Hulk?
The gates of hell are filled with the screams of his victims. But not the screams of the dead, of course. No. Wounded screams, mainly whimpering, a great deal of complaining, and tales of sprained deltoids and gout.
He was good.
Yeah,
these are two different scenes already.
Yeah, but after that point, and especially the bit where he goes off with Stellan Skarsgård character and has the little vision quest, awful.
Yeah, I don't know what that was doing.
I still don't understand how him shooting lightning at the Vision, which we're jumping ahead a little bit.
No, I know. I don't get that either. That's on my list.
We'll get to that. But almost everything involving Thor from that point onward, I hated. I didn't care for him in the final fight either. This guy just felt like a sore thumb, with the exception of a couple of good comedy beats. And I think that's part of the problem. I like Chris Hemsworth as a comedy actor in these type of movies. Whenever I'm supposed to take him seriously, I can't because he's too broad.
No, I liked him in this movie.
Yeah, so did I. I thought he was better as Thor in this one. Introduction of Ultron and that scene. I know a lot of people. I actually liked Ultron. I thought he did a fantastic job with Ultron.
James Spader was
Spader. I remember reading Ultron a lot, so I kind of had this vision of what he was going to sound like and act like, and fucking just went right off the rails what I thought it was. I enjoyed it. I thought he should have got way more screen time, and I love that the animation caught that kind of snarkiness.
Well, my understanding is Spader was mocap for all that stuff,
really?
so he did make those moves.
That's fantastic.
He had the motion capture.
Because that's some of those.
It was really unnerving him walking backwards into the scene and then spinning around. My brain was having trouble comprehending what was happening during that first appearance, and it really was like, whoa, what the that was a trip. Put me on edge immediately because he wasn't moving like a human being should move because he's not a human being.
Well, I love that when you would sit there, he had these motions, he would kind of get in these positions with his neck, talk almost in an upward position. Those little things he did, I bought into it even more. Like, I really thought he was real. Like, I was like, oh no, he's absolutely walking around there. Like, that's real.
Only look like a guy in a suit as opposed to 100% computer generated.
Because I guess that's one thing that gets lost with Iron Man is there's no facial movement. You always got to go inside the mask with, all the little lights bouncing around Tony's face, which is still cool.
Can I say one of the best things about seeing the movie in 3D is seeing that's like
the interface or whatever?
Yeah, the interface is because you really see that floating around in space. And one of the problems I have with 3D movies is that they're always great for like that first 15 minutes or so, and then they totally either your brain stops perceiving the 3D or they just stop working yet. For most of the movie, it's flat. It's like you hardly see anything, and then toward the end they kick it back in again. But the one thing that was consistent in that movie is every time they go into those headgears for either Jim Rhodes or for Tony, it's flying around in space and it looks cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Not enough for an extra $10, but
I was not offered any $16 character-specific 3D glasses either, by the way.
Wow.
The Cinemark was selling $20 shirts, and I didn't buy it because, A, they look kind of
cheap,
chunky, but also Iron Man is like... One thing that's weird with a lot of the merchandise, I notice, and I think it's probably because they're still trying to downplay Robert Downey Jr., but so much of the merchandise in the stores is Cap-specific, and I know Cap does have a pretty major role in this movie. He's front and center for a long period of time for action sequences, surprisingly so, and then they're downplaying Iron Man. And that's one of the only pieces of merchandise related to this movie where they put Iron Man right there in the middle and all the other characters are faded in the background.
Wait, is there going to be an Iron Man 4?
Shirt there's on Cinemark. No.
It does not. They would have announced it by now, I feel.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
So then is that why you're saying they're kind of pulling back on them?
Yeah, I think that they're trying to push other characters, and clearly they're trying to push Captain America really hard. Because there's a lot... Honestly, there was more Captain America than there should have been in this movie, and I'm a Cap fan, and I was surprised by how much Cap there was. But I don't want to get too far into that. You and Ultron, how did you feel about Spader's Ultron?
I thought at times he was a little too kooky.
He was very quirky, which was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, but I loved where they made him dark Tony Stark. I almost feel like, and maybe they just naturally like this because they've worked together for so long. I almost feel like he was sort of doing a Tony Stark impression, and sometimes their voices are a little closer than I had realized.
Because they've been working together since at least less than Zero, right?
Forever.
Back in the 80s?
Right. So I really started to like that because in a ways he kind of was. He is the sort of, he's taking the Tony Stark's idea and going ballistic with it, right?
Crazy
right.
Yeah.
He's taking all the...
Taking it to the nth degree to the point where...
To the nth degree is exactly what I was looking for but could not say because my brain stopped working. After I got over he was being that kooky, in a lot of ways, Tony Stark is kind of kooky. So it started to make sense.
He's very egocentric. And he does it in a benevolent way because he realizes the impact negative that he can have, where Ultron was unrestrained Tony Stark, completely self-absorbed, obsessive Tony Stark.
Well, including dealing with the same arms dealers.
Sure.
Right. I mean, he was even doing the exact...
Kind of following his steps.
He was following in his father's footsteps in a way. I really liked all that. Again, I just had to kind of get over sometimes the kookiness kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit. Like if I could throw up in my own mouth, I'd throw up. And I was like, shut up, dude. Like, really, we'd had to go with throw up in my own mouth.
I won't lie. The people around me laughed at that.
I know. Well, guess what? People are, for the most part, fucking retarded. So just because people around you laugh doesn't mean that it was good in the movie. No offense to the people around you, but...
Don't compare me with Stark. He's a sickness.
Ah, Junior.
You're gonna break your old man's heart.
If I have to.
Nobody has to break anything.
Clearly, you've never made an omelet.
You beat me by 1 second.
Ultron.
Okay, so here's the thing with Ultron. One, of course, I love that James Spader was in it, and I did enjoy that aspect of him playing Dark Tony. And I think it's interesting, too, because in this cinematic universe, Tony Stark is the most responsible for creating Ultron instead of Hank Pym. And when Hank Pym creates Ultron, he's a Terminator, basically. He just wants to destroy humanity. He's very cold. He has that clarity of purpose that Hank Pym always lacked. So in that sense, he's a dark mirror in that he knows what he wants. He's very driven. He's very cool about it. Where Hank Pym is emotional and he's easily distracted. He doesn't know what he wants to do with himself, and he's constantly trying to prove himself to other people. So that was an interesting parallel where in this movie, you still have that relationship, but it's in a different direction because it's Tony's personality being implanted upon Ultron. And I like, too, that the physicality of Ultron, because they make a big point of him wanting to be human, which is something that the Ultron in the comics never had any interest in. He wants to be something greater than human, though. He wants to evolve, like you say. And it seems to me like that plays with some of the darker recesses of Tony Stark as well, where he's creating these armors to become a stronger, more powerful version of humanity. For a robot, he had very distinct human musculature. He looked like a big muscle-bound person. Yeah. He didn't look like a Terminator endoskeleton or anything like that. But the thing that I had an issue with is that I really wish they hadn't gone for the Ultron lips, because I don't know how that was supposed to work, where he does this little, he looks like Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
And he has, I think you can see little teeth behind too. Like he
and
teeth,
that's, I kind of wish they just left the mouth open like in the comics and had the little squiggle things. And a few of his Ultron
just had Kirby bubbles pouring out of it.
Yeah, a few of the drones seem to have something closer to that classic Ultron design. I think that would have been better than watching his little weird Audrey lips move. That bugged me some.
It did. I kind of got over it. I at first I was like, this is gonna annoy me, and I sort of just forgot about it. I really did think that was gonna annoy me a lot going in. Actually, not even going in, because I didn't realize it was that pronounced going in. But the first time you really get that up close, and like I said, you can kind of see the teeth behind the lips moving.
Really working them lips.
I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this.
He had this horn thing going too.
I like that.
As a DC guy, I couldn't stop thinking about Lord Havoc, who is DC's ripoff of Doctor Doom, who's a full-on robot from Justice League comics. He looks like the revamped Lord Havoc. So that actually helped me, because the more I thought about him as Lord Havoc instead of Ultron, the more I could go, fuck it.
Well, actually, that was the second reincarnation of Ultron. He didn't get the horns until
honestly, I have issues. No, he still had kind of this curvature thing that sort of looked like
the very first was him sauntering
where he was just one of the
so that one where he was
Sentinels.
just a carved up Iron Man.
How did you like the anti-Iron Man sentiment expressed by the European nations with the graffiti and such?
I thought that was interesting.
I like that. I wish they kind of gone into that a little bit more.
I think they're going to go into it more in Civil War, I bet.
Maybe so,
yeah. I can see that, like a touch base.
There wasn't a lot of... This movie didn't get very deep. I felt like it just didn't have time to get deep.
Yeah.
That was something that I picked up on and was like, what is going on here? Like, why were they spitting on the Iron Legion and whatnot? And so that's got to get covered more in Civil War.
That was one of the few somewhat subtle moments in a movie that was unsubtle.
Okay, yeah.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. We've seen all these trailers, right? Yeah. And I had issues where a lot of stuff got spoiled in those trailers. I did not appreciate how much of the movie was really in those trailers. I thought they were going to be much more vague about what was in the movie. I thought that they were showing us a lot of early stuff, but they showed so many key images throughout the movie that a lot of the movie got spoiled that way. But one thing I didn't catch on to was that they never let Quicksilver or Scarlet Witch talk in any of the trailers. So when they actually start talking and you realize they have these thick Slavic accents, it jarred me. I was surprised by that choice, but I liked it. I liked that these were clearly not a couple of American kids. These guys were from some other country with a whole other set of values. They fucking hate the Avengers, and they immediately give you a really good reason for them to hate the Avengers.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was great.
And I thought that was wonderful. But carry on, your opinion. I directed Mr. Fixit. You tell us what you didn't like about Scarlet Witch.
You may have just hit. You might have just hit why they hated Iron Man, and that goes back to Pietro and Wanda's origin about the Stark bombs that had been bombing their city. They have Stark written on the side of them. Who is Tony Stark? Tony Stark is Iron Man. Hey, we hate Iron Man. Let's spit on Iron Man. That may have been the anti-Iron Man imagery. It's because Tony Stark's bombs.
I don't think they were the ones who were actually. Well, yeah, again, like you said, the military-industrial complex and Iron Man's ties to that, and the Avengers' ties to that, is not going to go over well in Europe, where it'll probably come off as fascistic. It reminded me that these two characters, as presented in Avengers, are divorced from the comics because you can't reference them as mutants, and so they had to give them a whole new origin. And I thought it was a great origin, a very timely origin. origin, because you're hearing about those stories all the time in the Middle East right now. It's full of these stories of these drones coming in and destroying wedding parties and shit because we can't get our shit together. And of course they're going to hate us when we do this kind of thing.
The political views of Frank do not represent the political views of other people in the Marvel Superheroes podcast.
Right. Okay. The other thing, though, is I loved that you had that scene with Captain America talking to Maria Hill. She's trying to portray them as these total terrorists and these aberrations because they were willing to go to a German scientist and be transformed to fight in a war that, you know, some people don't even acknowledge existing. And Cap going, yeah, that's my origin. Yeah. So I recognize these kids are at war. Who would take that choice?
Who would hand themselves over to a German scientist to have be experimented on to fight on behalf of their country? And then, like, the elevator doors closed. Somebody was like, burn, Maria Hill.
That was great.
You suck, Maria Hill. I wish you would die.
But what I love, too, is that's such a Captain America moment, too. That's not just Joss Whedon putting politics into his movies. That's from the comics. That's who that character is. And I loved that beat. That was wonderful.
Let me tell you something. Chris Evans, yoked to hell in this movie.
Oh, God.
This dude is so fucking jacked in this film. Out of control. Jacked. This dude is jacked. Not just jacked. This dude's jacked.
Well,
I think that he really pulled that piece of wood apart in that scene. Like, he had like a little bit of roid rage and like actually got caught up in the scene and pulled it in half, and they were like, please tell me you got that.
Well, and Marvel has a deal with Under Armour where they're going to do shirts that are patterned after the Marvel costumes.
I've seen them.
And man, he was wearing the shit out of that Under Armour.
Hey, he was wearing the shit out of that Under Armour. I just had to reiterate.
Yeah, where Chris Hemsworth is constantly running around in the plastic fakey armor, so he lost his hunk status a lot compared to Chris Evans, because that dude was just like...
You take that back. You know what's weird? So my wife and I are having a child now. So I was like, well, now that we're like invested in this shit finally, right? We have to make those lists where you got to give, I got 5 people, the freebies, right? If you ever come across anybody. And you know what's fucking weird? Chris Hemsworth on both of our lists. Super awkward.
Not shocking though, but yeah.
No, not shocking in the least. In fact, he should be on everybody's top 5 list.
I just don't see it. I don't see the appeal. I can understand.
Good looking dude.
Yeah.
Really? Australian accent? Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
You both like to go with the whole like unshaven look too, just like a few days unshaven.
This is like 5 hours for me, dude. This is not
like sandpaper.
Yeah,
I can literally push it out. Watch.
He's like the porcupine.
They can't see this.
Oh, right. You can hear the rustling.
Not to reveal too much about the Ilmac, but he is a freckly, hairy man.
Thank you.
And apparently I'm not around long enough for y'all to know why y'all know that about you.
But you didn't get to talk about Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Every time I saw her, I kept thinking Stevie Nicks for some reason.
I can see that.
Every time
she's like a modern goth Stevie Nicks. Yeah.
My magic power. And I'm just like, stop fucking moving. Like, stop moving. She'd go.
Here are my things about the twins. 1, Pietro looks like the perfect douchey Eastern European in the fucking sweats, dude.
The entire
I was like, oh my God, he's the guy at the mall selling these cell phone cases with the guy running the little helicopters inside.
The minute he came on, all I heard was a trashy European.
Here's why Quicksilver would not work. Because you know that guy was drenched in perfume and cologne. You know that motherfucker was. You just follow the cologne. It doesn't matter how fast he is.
The
You
only
can't
thing that got me was
shit.
I saw the X-Men Quicksilver, and that one was such a great character. Even though he was in the movie for just a small bit, he was so enjoyable that when I got to this one, I was kind of curious how they're going to play him. And he played the quiet dick.
Well, they were both the kicked puppies.
No, but he was more of a dick. He was more the aggressor, where she was just kind of like
that's Quicksilver in the comics.
Yeah. They definitely, the character in the comics is definitely captured much better in the Marvel movie than in the X-Men movie.
Yeah.
But I loved how, for the longest time, I've had issues with Quicksilver because it's like, why would you use Quicksilver when you could just use Namor? They have the same personality, the same basic look.
Yeah.
So I had trouble just distinguishing. He was just the X-Men's Namor. And this movie set it apart because Namor would not act anything like the Quicksilver in this movie. They're 2 different flavors of dick.
Wow. The views of Frank do not represent the views of the other co-hosts of the Marvel Superheroes podcast.
What I also like is
# flavors of dicks.
I like that Quicksilver's costume is totally what he's wearing in real life anyway. Yeah.
You can't get away if you're Quicksilver because you swish around in those goddamn sweatsuits and you smell like cologne, man.
in the background.
So my problem with Wanda, do they ever even call her Wanda in the whole damn movie?
I don't recall. They only ever called him Pietro like once or twice
in
the whole movie.
She did too, though. She was the one that said it.
But like once or twice in the entire movie.
Because she was like, 1, to. Here's the problem: is that I think that she's going to continue to be in these movies, and she's going to continue to be in these movies.
Sad part.
I know that bitch can't do an accent, buddy.
And once again, I'm going to completely disagree with you.
That accent was terrible.
And look, I'm going to disagree with the both of you hardcore. One, I worked with people from that part of the world, and they do have those ridiculous accents. That's a real accent. It's ridiculous, and it's comical to hear that in real life, but that accent exists. Two, I loved the hand gestures.
That's fine. No, I liked everything about it until she would open her mouth. She looks European. She's got that sort of exotic look where her eyes are. It's like you can tell she's Eastern European.
But what bothered me
getting
was
a little Asia. She's Kazakhstan, where you're laughing because you're an idiot. Kazakhstan is in most of the populace of Kazakhstan are Asian. They look Asiatic, but they speak Russian or Czechoslovakian or one of those other Zickian languages. So everything about her is perfectly fine with me, except, dude, I'm telling you, that accent was terrible, bro.
I enjoy listening to her talk. I love the hand gestures. I loved how unique.
But, dude, you liked listening to her talk because she didn't talk a lot. If she's going to be
she talked a fair amount.
You are wrong, dude. If she's going to be a co-star in one of these films, talking like as much as Scarlett Johansson is, you're going to be like, I done fucked up in that one podcast, and I'm going to go pull it down off of the internet, so there's no trace of me propping this up.
The part that bothered me the most was she always seemed to teleport behind everybody.
Yeah, that was kind of...
That was really weird.
Although that was pretty... When she was behind Stark, that was awesome.
That looked really cool.
They did a really good job.
Effect too. That looks cool.
Because her hair is dark, her clothes are dark, but her skin is so pale, she looks ghostly coming behind him. The little tickly thing did good. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Where she was like, oh, I tickle you. She was a tickle monster, and then they would do...
No one could hear her coming, and she's like, ooh. And then all of a sudden their eyes turn red, and they see whatever the fuck she wants to see. Now, does she really have the chaos magic?
Well, no. That's one thing that they explain again in one of those Maria Hill scenes. She has the same exact powers as Jean Grey. She's got telekinesis, telepathy.
Weird.
Yeah, I know, but if you break down the scientific jargon, she has telekinesis and telepathy. Whereas in the comics, she has the hex magic. Do you want to explain hex magic?
Nope.
She has the mutant power to affect probabilities. She'll cast, not unlike Longshot, but she predated Longshot by decades, where she can cast an energy bolt that would affect probability and cause things to rust when they would normally rust, just like some random spanner in the works, okay? But she also learned true magic as well, so she mixed the magic with the mutant powers.
Mana.
Yeah,
sure. Where here, they say that she's basically got the same powers as Jean Grey, but the way she uses it is very different from her, which I liked.
Oh, okay. I thought she was using magic when we saw the little clouds floating around her hands. I was like, oh.
They didn't really explain any of what it was. Right? Yeah. They didn't really explain what her powers were.
Except she was interesting to look at. You're right. She was
giving you visions, but was she giving you a vision, or was she showing you the future? You know what I mean? They weren't really clear.
No, she kind of made it probably that she showed them their fear, their greatest fear. But
Thor's manifested though.
Thor's, he was seeing why he needs to get back to fucking...
Because Ragnarok's going to happen. So that was the lead up to his movie.
And Tony Stark's was he's seeing...
He fails everyone and they die because he couldn't step up.
If some sort of Infinity Gauntlet is what they're going to show.
By the way, that was some stage...
But Caps wasn't. But Caps wasn't.
Well, no, because he was in a party full of people around him. They're all dying. They're vanishing. And then again, he's the man out of time type shit.
Right.
Now, I got to admit, the Black Widow one was pretty fucked up. Like that one, I was really disturbed.
Cap was kind of shown his past. Black Widow was kind of shown her past. Iron Man was kind of shown the future. Thor was
his fear. It was his fear. Thor was shown, I guess, the future. They never really showed what the Hulk feared. He just kind of went batshit crazy, beating the shit out of him.
Well, he manifested his fear. He did exactly what he was afraid he was going to do.
So what you say with Scarlet Witch was another kind of thing I said earlier, that it's like people just kept kind of running into each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These characters are really far apart, but the girl who has to walk on foot...
there was a lot of really bad stagey shit like that.
Right.
Yeah. And Pietro Maximoff, twins. Orphaned at 10 when a shell collapsed their apartment building. Sokovia's had a rough history. It's nowhere special, but it's on the way to everywhere special.
Their abilities?
He's got increased metabolism and improved thermal homeostasis. Her thing is neuroelectric interfacing, telekinesis, mental manipulation. He's fast and she's weird.
Well, they're going to show up again.
Agreed. File says they volunteered for Strucker's experiments. It's nuts.
Right. What kind of monster would let a German scientist experiment on them to protect their country?
We're not at war, Captain.
They are.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, which, my God, we are spoiling the shit out of this for you.
Why even watch it now?
No, go see it anyway.
Put his commentary with it.
Yeah, play this in a headphone while you're watching the movie. The thing is that this movie's impossible to make. So wait.
Technically, it's a very difficult.
If someone said, "Hey, I want you to make a movie," it's a sequel. Right off the bat, you're fucked because sequels are never as good as the originals.
Aliens.
No, just shut the fuck up. You're gonna point out the two movies that are like Empire Strikes Back. You're like, yeah, the two sequels that were ever good.
I can think of several.
So it's a sequel. And it's a following up an iconic original. Avengers is a fairly iconic movie, whether you like it or not. It's a pretty iconic movie, and we're gonna need you to cram triple the characters in it, and you need to keep it 2 hours and 15, 2 hours and 20 minutes. You're screwed. Okay. So the fact that this movie is what it is, you need to just be like, look, he can't show you how she got to where the Hulk is from the shipping yard. They can't do that.
Well, no, it's not a comic book where they can do 12 issues to tell a story. I get that.
And the reason I'm saying this is because I've seen a lot of people complain about it. Some of this shit you got to let go and just understand, like, well, what do you want him to do? You wanted a camera to follow Scarlet Witch as she walks to the next person? You can't do it. So I point out that it's weird because these characters do just keep kind of bumping into each other. But I just want to follow that with, there's no other way you can do it and keep this movie under 4 hours. Well, so I'm totally fine with it, but it does kind of, you do a little eye roll every now and then where it's like, oh, there she is again.
Well, you realize they're under time constraint.
Exactly.
Yeah. But here's the thing I want to argue, though. Some people complained about Joss Whedon's direction in the first movie. There was too much, like, TV direction. I think that J.J. Abrams got the same complaints with the Mission Impossible movie that he directed, where it looks, the staging, how the actors are shot was too much like TV, too static. One thing I liked about this movie is he's moving the camera around in ways that are very cinematic, but then he'll do something like Black Widow's interstage right, and it looks like something from a play. Yeah. And it really reminds you that a lot of this stuff is going to happen in front of a green screen room because the actor just sort of walks in from some door that you don't get to see. The artifice is very apparent, and I do think that they could have handled that just a little bit better, just a little bit more thought into how a character walks onto the screen to make sure that you don't pull the curtain back too much. I agree with that complaint, but I completely understand too what a punishing task Joss Whedon had in front of him in making this movie.
I feel like did I really want him to focus on that, or did I want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something's gonna get missed. So as annoying as that was at times, like I said, it's obvious. Anybody who's seen the movie or will go see the movie, you're gonna fucking notice it. That you're like, what the holy shit! These characters are literally just like bumping into each other. It's so weird.
I think when I walked in, because
what I'm saying negates the fact that they're trying to make it feel like there's this huge battlefield, these huge cities, it's this massive superhero team, and they're in jets flying around.
I talked to another friend of mine, and I told him I had read some of the early reviews, and I was like, oh man, I don't know. Matter of fact, it was Fryho, and I was like, I don't know. And Fryho said it the best. He said, dude, you need to walk in there and just realize it's a fucking comic book movie. You're not going to learn something new in this world.
Which is exactly what Avengers 1 was.
You're going to walk in and it's just going to be fun. And so when he told me that, so when we sat there and I was watching it, a lot of these problems you're talking about, I saw, but it was like, whatever. I mean, I've read, you've read a book or a comic that there was that one panel or that one story arc that was just like, what the fuck? But you get through it, you enjoy the rest of the arc.
And that's everything. All my complaints I've pointed out so far, I was totally able to do.
Yeah.
But we're talking about it, so I'm going to point out.
I would so watch this movie 10 more times.
This is funny, Mr. Stark. It's what, comfortable? Like old times?
This was never my life.
You two can still walk away from this.
No, we will.
You believe in peace, then let us keep it.
I think you're confusing peace with quiet.
Now we're in South Africa, and we're introducing Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis.
He was jacked looking, too.
Yeah, he was in really good shape.
This is probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie.
He did it. I think he nailed that accent.
He was fantastic.
Great rhythm.
Yeah. And that's, again, he made Pietro and Wanda look like shit, dude. I'm like, oh, that's an actor. Okay, cool. There's an actor who is into a role.
Well, okay, I just want to point out that Frank did start clapping when Banner was like, yeah, what's that symbol on his neck?
Wakanda? Wakanda? He wasn't the only one.
Yeah. Oh, no. I heard quite a few people clap, but yeah. I just thought it was...
We were at the nerd showings.
Yeah.
Everyone had a t-shirt on.
Yeah, well, it was fun. That's more fun.
Oh, it was.
But
I love the
fact that they're dropping those little Easter eggs so that you know, like, okay, in the next one, he's definitely got to be in Black Panther movie now. He has to be.
Oh, which, by the way, we can do this one. Ultron's line about, you guys made they got the most powerful metal on Earth, and they made a frisbee out of it.
Yeah. That was a
great line.
Yeah.
That's when the snark goes the right way for me. Not the, if I could throw up my mouth, I'd throw up my mouth. Anyway.
Yeah, and they take the most powerful metal in the world and make a frisbee out of it.
Made a frisbee out of it.
But here's the thing: how does that affect Black Panther's origin?
Well, did they kind of hint at it?
Well, thief.
No, but
he was branded for being a thief, which means he already stole from.
Because he said it came at great cost to him.
Yeah, but he's disarmed by Ultron.
Yeah.
When previously that was Black Panther's whole thing. So how does that affect Black Panther's origin? Does that mean, are we going to have him become Black Panther as an adult in this movie that's coming up, and T'Chaka's still alive? I mean, how are they?
Yeah.
Is he going to take the billions of dollars he got from Ultron and use that to mount another expedition into Wakanda, and that's when he kills T'Chaka, and that's what prompts T'Challa to become Black Panther? It's kind of because, I mean, one of the problems with T'Challa's origin is it is very similar to Batman's origin. So are they in the movie going to end up having to fix T'Challa's origin? Is that what we're going towards? Because what they did to Ulysses Claw kind of negates a lot of what has happened in the classic Black Panther origin.
Kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Well, losing the arm is his thing. It sort of happened.
I wanted to mention this to you earlier whenever we were out there. I was thinking about my biggest fear right now, and I know this is a little off topic of the Avengers, but when we saw the Ant-Man trailer and you heard the response in the theater, my big fear is that Ant-Man won't do that great, and all the other movies are going to get shuffled a bit. Like, they're not going to get that big budget they need.
People laughed at the train bit.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I like the train bit too.
Yeah,
all I'm going to say about the Ant-Man trailer is I am on record with what I think is going to happen with this film, and I'm not changing what I have put on record.
I think it'll do better than you give it
I'm on record for Fantastic Four, and I'm on record for Ant-Man, and I'm not being... I've seen nothing to, no pun intended, derail me.
And I'm going to say that those Thor movies are a fucking drag, and there's almost no way that I won't enjoy the Ant-Man movie than another fucking Thor movie.
Think so?
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember, but we were at one of your birthdays, and Fryhole was there, and it was one of the best conversations I had with Fryhole because we were sitting next to each other and bullshitting about comic book stuff, and it was before Thor was coming out. And I was explaining, because I didn't like the early trailers from Captain America, how excited I was to see Thor, which had some great trailers, and how bummed I was about Captain America because it just didn't look like it was going to be as good of a movie. And then what ended up happening is Thor ended up being a remake of Superman 2 that I liked okay the first time I saw it, and then I've liked less and less every time I've watched it since, where Captain America ended up being a far better movie than I expected it to be. But I feel so bad for Fryhole, and I'm curious too. I want to know how he reacted, because I haven't talked to him about Thor since that birthday of yours, so I have no idea. Maybe he loved it. We got to talk to that guy in the future.
I'll bring Fryhole around.
Easter egg.
So, well, back to the Avengers. So, Ulysses Claw was cool as shit.
Yeah, I did enjoy him, but I don't understand the whole interaction between Ultron and Ulysses Claw. Only makes sense because of what Mac was saying about Ultron acting like Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Objectively, that scene doesn't make a bit of sense. Why didn't he just run in there with his mutant friends and steal the vibranium and leave? Why does Ulysses Claw even have to have anything to do in that movie?
Well, because he said, was that great line? Because he had to drop that line that Tony Stark always drops, like, shower your friends with money.
Right, but that's the thing, is that's
one of
those artificial things that they work.
Yeah, and he's like,
that's Tony Stark's line. I've heard that before.
I think you needed that scene because you needed people to say, holy shit, is this like a dark Tony Stark? Like, that's his dark personality? Because that's, to me, what really sold Ultron. After that, after I heard that line...
And if I remember correctly, right, that happened after they start talking about who Ulysses Claw is, and they're like, Jesus, Tony, this freaking arms dealer, and he was all like, I never actually met the guy. This was just,
Yeah.
And then it turns out he has, I heard that from Stark in person, that line from Stark. Like, oh, Tony's just not, that was not the first time Tony, which we skipped over the original Banner Tony scene where they're discussing whether or not they should even begin this Ultron initiative, which I really
Bros
liked.
Is still cool. I still really enjoy the way those two characters interact with one another.
Yeah.
Who?
Science Bros. Tony Stark
Science
and Bruce
Bros.
Banner.
Science Bros. Sorry, you're...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
His smoky voice.
They said Sides Bros. And I was like, what?
Smoky
I did the way that they were able to sort of rationalize to each other that, no, that we need to do this. I thought that was great. And their whole, their nerd montage of them trying to... So, yeah, that was all good.
They just needed the best. What was that song?
Around. Yeah. By the way, Paquita always sings that song. In a given month, she may not do it every week, but in a given month, she's sung that song at least 4 times.
Really?
Okay? It's just a thing. Just have to throw that out there since you happen to reference that.
I'm sure. I don't know why I did, Dammy, but I don't know why.
Man, we should do top 10 cinematic montages.
Top 10?
Top 10 cinematic montages.
Now can we get to the best scene? Jesus Christ.
Well, I do want to say, too, I loved how they introduced Ultron, the artificial intelligence. Just the screen goes black, and you know what's happening, and then you see the cyber communication between Jarvis and Ultron.
But,
that was a wonderful introduction to the character and an incredibly intelligent way to show something that you really can't see.
But let me... Okay, I asked Mac this question earlier.
Very challenging. Go ahead.
I asked Mac this question earlier. Was Ultron's personality from the actual stone itself, or was it programmed by the Nazis?
No,
or like
it's when he says who it happens right then when he asks Jarvis like who created me. And
because I love that part.
And he says Tony Stark. So the first thing he looks up is Tony Stark. Like that's his father. That's the first. But they show the flashing of the pages.
Was the stone the birth of that mindset? Like, because I love the part because like this is weird. He's like, this is weird.
So that's to me.
It kind of felt like
where he's like, what's going on? This is weird.
He was confused. Like, it's almost like he was awakened, and that's why I was kind of like, okay, was that something from the gym? Because of course it's the mind gem. We all know that.
I think that they're intentionally vague on that,
right?
Because you've got the Chitauri war dragon thingy, whatever that is,
and Von Strucker's shit. Yeah,
which was good shit.
Is it Von Strucker? Baron Von Strucker?
Baron Von Strucker.
Okay,
yes.
Sorry.
You've got
I was saying that wrong.
Yeah, you've got the data that they pulled from Von Strucker's computers, where they were trying to integrate stuff from the Chitauri technology with the staff and the mind gem, and they're trying to chart the mind gem in binary code, which of course this is an infinity gem, so that's impossible.
And that was a fucking awesome scene.
Yeah, so I think that it's man's flawed attempt to turn the mind gem into binary code, and the result is a fucked up Ultron, because we cannot reduce the mind gem to something so simple as binary code.
Where it gets confusing is that the Ultrons were all already assembled in Strucker's laboratory, right?
No, he made those.
No, they weren't.
They weren't.
He did.
Dude, there was tables of them.
He beamed out onto the internet and then into Von Strucker's. Tony Stark even says there were these strange.
There were robot parts, but I don't think they were Ultrons.
No, I think that yes, they were already there.
They were just parts on tables. I think that he created them.
I think they were building an army of them, and this was supposed to be the artificial intelligence they put in the army.
That's why I think in a way, and maybe I'm way off. Somebody hit us up in the comments. I thought that was why Wanda and Pietro knew about this plan, and that's why they were like, "Let's Stark take it. Let's Stark take it. He'll fucking solve this thing and get Ultron up and running." Obviously, they didn't know he named it Ultron, but that would get this plan finally into motion. That's what happened. He became sentient, and then he beamed himself back to Von Strucker's lab into his Ultron bodies. Because I remember the scene. Remember the scene where it goes into that dark room and they all start kind of charging up and shit. That's what I thought happened.
But I thought those were parts on a table. I thought he was making them, but I might have just missed something.
Wait, I must
not that it really matters. It really doesn't matter.
I think I'm misplacing the scene because I love that scene where they showed the different gems and their different forms.
That was Thor, right?
Was that? But
that was where Thor was kind of where he dipped himself in the water.
Was that after he dipped himself in the water?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
I think that was sort of the whole point of Thor dipping himself in the
so he could
water.
Bring up, and he even called them the Infinity Stones. I was just like,
where it's like, oh shit, it all makes sense now. That fucking cube is this, and the ether thing is this shit.
Because I think
Loki's staff is this thing. Oh my god, it's all coming together.
Because I think the next next cap will be the Avengers breaking up.
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay,
we're still going into the movie. We're going scene by scene.
By the way, roughly, what did y'all think of the dream sequences? I really, considering how great the Tony Stark
Widow's fucking was.
Yeah, that one was dark.
Awesome,
I like that. And I love too that they got Julie Delpy, because I've crushed on her ever since Before Sunset. So I love that they got her snuck her in there as the head of the red room.
The graduation thing, dude. When they mentioned that part, I don't want to ruin that for someone, but I remember I heard that and I heard people gasp like, that was a nice little punch to the gut there.
I thought this movie did a really good job of taking all the complaints we had in the first movies, like we don't know what the fuck Hawkeye is, and we don't know anything about Black Widow.
Yeah.
And I thought that they've pulled it back a little bit. Where you're like, oh damn, you know what? I kind of want,
I want to see the Black Widow movie.
After that, that would sell me on a Black Widow movie.
Well, that is one issue though, because when I will say that watching this movie the first time, it was so consistently entertaining that I thought for a minute that it might be better than the first one. And then the more I thought about it, because I had trouble going to sleep that night. I even drank one of those Bob Marley relaxation drinks, to help me to go to sleep.
Marijuana.
And I was still up for like an hour thinking about the movie and deconstructing it. And I realized that there was a reviewer, because I was like you, I had to kind of scan Rotten Tomatoes just to get an idea. And when people were like, being critical, it's like, how dare you? It's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest movie ever. There was one reviewer that said that there's a lot to like about the movie, but not a lot to love. And I see the point, because like you take Black Widow, the Black Widow as portrayed in the first movie was just revelatory. I went from really not liking that character and not liking the actress playing that character to just loving what she did in that first movie, in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And then this movie, with the exception of the flashback sequences, and I love too that they managed to de-age Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
That was very effective.
Okay, but the only thing I didn't like was when she was fighting, she had whatever the Tron glowing effect.
That was at the end. I don't know what the fuck that was about.
She's stinging people.
No, you didn't notice everybody got an upgrade from Tony Stark except I think Thor and Hulk.
Yeah, because Hawkeye got his more traditional costume.
And Captain America got the magnetic shield that he had in
I thought that was kind of a nice touch. I thought it was nice. Or bringing shields
the
to him.
shit they were doing with that shield, man.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. They had that shield do so much cool stuff. They really were ever put it in your face, look how cool Captain America is.
Oh, especially the beginning scene where he's like, they're lining up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Blows the tank up. And they did that later
on
where you hit it and everything.
Well, and honestly, they did more stuff with the shield cutting through Ultron robots than you saw Thor smashing through stuff. How many cool moments in terms of power displays can you think of that Iron Man had versus Cap?
Yeah.
They had tons of stuff for Cap
Which
to
will
do.
lead me to my least favorite scene. Oh, I can't wait till we get to it.
Yeah. But I love stuff like when Cap would half impale a robot and then leap and kick the shield through it to
sever it the rest of the way. Yeah.
Just awesome shield stuff.
Cap was badass in this movie. For real.
That shield stepped up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He should have got a credit, though.
So, okay, but the dream sequences. How cool was Tony Stark's dream in the trailers, and how cheesy was it in the movie?
Yeah, it was really lame.
It looked really terrible.
Chris Evans was terrible, where he's like,
that was the worst thing Chris Evans has ever done his entire career.
Oh, you could have saved us.
You could have done more.
And then his nose bleeds a little bit.
No. Actually, I did like the Hulk, like still trying to breathe while he's impaled.
Cool he had
all those things impaling on him, and he's like,
I think I missed Hulk.
You could not miss it, dude.
When they pull back to the Chitauri war things going towards Earth, that's when you can really see the Hulk being impaled. That was the best part of that
But the
sequence.
best part was he's trying to still breathe. He's like, and he's just fucking impaled like crazy. That was kind of cheesy. I would have, I honestly, when they were doing, this is my exact.
Thor's was pretty lame.
For it to be the trigger that sets the rest of this movie in motion, I really wish that they would have done more with it. The same way I thought his panic attacks fell flat in Iron Man 3. I'm just, you're not selling me.
But the only thing is, and I actually thought about this, when they were panning down from the Hulk and I got to Thor, I personally thought it would have been cool to see a headless Thor. Just see the shoulders.
Seeing as how they wouldn't even show an armless claw, really, you weren't going to get a headless Thor.
No, but you're not going to see a stump. You just see the body with no head.
I'm just saying, there was no blood. There was none of that in this movie.
They killed people.
They intimated that people died. You never saw somebody get their head chopped off or even their arm chopped off. They cut away and you just heard the noise, and Claw didn't even scream after he got his arm cut off. He was sort of like, He was sort of grunting.
Dude, he's that fucking tough, dude.
Hey, right?
Dude, he like chewed it back in position.
Right. Oh, yeah, he Carterized it with, But no, they weren't going to show, it would have been cool to have a headless Thor. I don't know what the fuck movie you watched, because there's no way that was going to happen.
No, I'm just saying that would have been cool. And the death scene, that to me would have been more for Tony, because it was kind of weak. Tony just sees all his buddies dead and the Chitauri are going to the Earth. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like, that really set him off. Like, I get his big thing was like, oh, there's threats here, but that's the end game. When they come from the sky, it's the end game.
I did like where he was like, do you guys not remember that I had to go up into space? And they were like, yeah, we know you went up into space, because I felt the same way too. I'm like, yeah, we know. Yeah, we saw a whole stupid Iron Man 3. They kept trying to, they're not making me feel it. I keep thinking they're going to make me feel like this was really bad, but it wasn't. You don't know what I saw up there. Yeah, we do. You saw some big slug guys.
I want to say I really like the way they choreographed fight between Ultron and the twins and the Avengers in the warehouse. I thought that was really well done. I especially loved, and this was when Scarlet Witch is running around and setting them off with the visions, and Quicksilver's running around the base. I love all of that. Everything with Quicksilver, especially though. Quicksilver was so great in that particular sequence. I love the slow motion punching of Captain America.
Or when he tried to grab Thor's hammer.
That was so great.
And he's like, where he comes back to it. Oh, okay. And
the Hawkeye payoff was so great. He deserved that.
Yeah. Well, the other question I had, so when they were all destroying the Ultron robots, was it that Quicksilver was so fast when he punched and they just exploded?
Are we going to talk about that?
I'm just curious. Well, no, because he was talking about his speed.
Here's another thing. Like I said earlier, you got a lot of challenges in a movie like this, especially when you've got a guy with a bow and arrow on one end and you got a guy who's the god of thunder at the other end, right? That was a great line. We'll get that later. Or we won't. I don't know. So you gotta, but they're all fighting the same characters, right? So you can't have Hawkeye and you can't have Quicksilver. If Quicksilver was strong enough to blow up a robot with a punch, then he would have killed Captain America, right? The power levels in this movie are so fucked up. Like, none of this shit made any sense at all. But again, that's the challenge of making a movie like this. So,
well, it's not like we don't run that in the actual comic books as well.
Right. It's a huge problem in comic books, but you have to be like, okay, you gotta give him that. Otherwise, he's gotta take Thor out of the movie. Or he's gotta take Iron Man out of the movie. So do you want Thor and Iron Man in the movie? Yeah? Then shut the fuck up. They gotta be able to beat, the Ultrons have to threaten Tony Stark, and they have to threaten the Hulk, and they have to threaten Thor just as much as they can be beaten by Quicksilver and Hawkeye and Black Widow. Otherwise, they gotta get rid of the characters. So you gotta pick your poison here. So yes, I was like, really? Quicksilver's blowing them up with punches now, right? Like, but that was one of those things where I was like, I'm perfectly willing to let that go. I'm not going to let it.
Well, it's easier if he's blowing up the robots with his extreme velocity, the extreme force with which he's hitting them, if he isn't also vulnerable to bullets and flying objects in the vicinity.
Right,
because if he's running that fast, any mote of dust, any insect would also be tearing him apart.
Yeah.
So the physics are completely fucked.
They're totally fucked up. But you gotta just forget about it.
You forget it.
Can we talk about the scene that I hate the most in this whole stupid movie?
I want to talk about my favorite scene.
Happened about this time? No, maybe it was a little after this time. Anyway, keep going. We'll get to it.
Well,
we'll hit it.
All right, everybody, stand down.
You listen to me? That little witch is messing with your mind. You're stronger than her. You're smarter than her. You're Bruce Banner. Right? Don't mention puny Banner.
Now we're at Banner's rampage in South Africa.
And I thought it was fantastic. I think Robert Downey Jr. did great in that scene when he put on the Hulk armor. Though, I just got a question. Why was the space thing called Victoria? Is that an Iron Man
Veronica.
thing? Veronica.
I don't know if that's a thing or not.
I think it's just a gag.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
We all know it's the Hulkbuster armor.
Well, because he had talked. Didn't he talk about?
No.
Didn't he talk about earlier about Hulk's relationship with Veronica? Earlier? I would have.
Maybe.
I think he mentioned Veronica to Banner earlier.
Bad ex-girlfriend or
I just
something.
wanted because when I heard that Veronica, I was like, I'm gonna have to ask Mac. Like, is that something in the comics that I?
It may be. Hulkbuster had made one appearance in the comic books, the very first with the Hopgood Kaminsky stuff. The very first Hulkbuster during what the fuck was it called? Crash and Burn was the miniseries that was in, or not miniseries, the story that was in. It never appeared while I was still reading comic books, but it's made several iterations since I stopped collecting, so it could have easily have been one of those where Veronica or whatever it was popped up.
I do have to say too that they mentioned Veronica earlier in the movie before you get it more explicitly.
Okay, I didn't.
That's what I was saying. I think they mentioned in that conversation with.
Oh, okay. No, okay. I thought you were talking about something else. I want to say, wasn't there something in the first movie where there's like a particularly vindictive ex-girlfriend named Veronica? I think that was what it was.
Not so sure.
I have to go back and look at that. But okay, keep talking about the rampage.
So of course the Hulk is tearing through the city. I know people had to be getting killed left and right because he's going through buildings like nothing, just tearing through shit.
Which
cars. I mean, that
people
one scene.
upset.
I gotta admit, one scene was a little intense where the woman is in the car and the Hulk is bashing the side of the car, and you're just waiting for that last blow to watch her explode into a meaty pile. And I really thought they were going. I was like, wow, they're really going for it. He's smashing the car. She can't get out. And I loved when they brought in the Hulk armor because I originally thought the Hulk armor was in Iron Man 3. That one suit that comes running and lifts up, whenever that fucking thing's about to fall over. And it's, I thought that was a Hulk armor. And I was like, I always thought it was kind of weak, kind of small.
No, the Hulkbuster armor is huge.
Yeah, this thing was fucking massive. And I just love the fact that he had that Veronica thing still floating and just reloading. And
because they had to reload because Hulk would just start ripping his arm off and stuff. Yeah, I think that was great because
he needed that.
It needed that.
He didn't just use one method of fighting. Like it was a brawl. It wasn't a fight. That was just a straight. And
I liked when it's total cheese ball, but like when their fists collide in midair and boom, it looks like that shockwave and stuff.
Oh no, I love the scene when
this was total comic book CGI porn.
Yeah,
the whole thing was just. And I thought that was some of the best CGI in the movie. You could tell they really focused on making that look good.
Well, I just love that part where he starts doing that pile driver
the jackhammer.
Oh my god, I was like, fantastic. I love that scene. And of course, I kind of was wondering how they're gonna end the fight because that's always been a big thing. Like,
and I liked how he basically handcuffed him.
With
the armor and then tried to fly away. But Hulk is so violently just swinging around, he now can't control where he's flying, and they crash.
I thought that was cool.
It was such a Marvel moment when you watch them go through every floor of that building under construction. The conveniently uninhabited building.
Yeah. Oh, and did you see the traffic on the side of the view? I don't know why, but I looked. There was cars moving as the building was collapsing, and I was just like, "Oh, someone's got
obvious September 11th imagery." Right? There was even like the powdered dust everywhere, and people were covered. I think we're far enough out. I don't think it's not like World of Worlds where they were doing it, and it was like, dude, you're just copying you're trying to pull on people's 9/11 strings because it's happened within the last few years. At this point now, I think that's just when people say, "Hey, we need to animate a building falling down."
People know what that looks like because they've seen it.
Right? We've now seen what it looks like when when buildings fall down. So I was afraid somebody was going to probably get sensitive about that because it's 2015. People
We're
going to
address that later, though.
Because I want to say there were a couple scenes in this movie where they did that, but that was the most where I was like, oh shit, am I watching clips of September 11th? Or?
Well, to bring back the humor, I did like the scene where the Hulk jumped on Tony's back and Tony's like, "Dick move, Banner." Like
didn't like that.
Really, I thought it was
super.
that was that sarcastic Tony that
I know.
I have no problem with that one. That was cool. That was cool. I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
Dick move, Banner.
They can't all be winners, but it's the kind of thing you'd say, though.
Yeah,
it's not the kind of thing you'd say when you're.
Well, no, the thing is,
it didn't bother me enough. We're not bringing it up.
The only part of that whole scene, which I love the whole scene, was they kind of rehashed an old joke from the first one, where the Hulk, people are trying to get away, and the Hulk's getting angry, and he's getting up, and all of a sudden the fist comes out of nowhere and knocks him out.
I think that was an intentional callback. I think that was on purpose. Yes.
I kind of. I
think they were referencing the Hulk Thor fight.
I think they got to a scene where like, how would he knock out the Hulk? Like really, like you just threw him through a building, y'all smashed the shit. I think at one point you got hit with an elevator, which I thought that was kind of a cool scene too.
Yeah, that was cool.
So I knew they had to fight.
Real good job of as the last people get out, and then he swings the elevator.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. That could have totally been cop out. We're gonna make it shaky cam. You can't really focus on anything anyway. But they would stop that camera, and you're getting nothing but rubble and Hulk and Iron Man, and you're watching it all happen. Because they'd slow it down a little bit. Yeah, they did a good job.
See, two things I want to say about this. One is I especially in the 80s, but in the 90s, action movies. I had trouble watching a lot of action movies because I would just get bored. I would check out because the action would be going on too long. You've got a car chase, and they're cutting back and forth, and it just keeps going on
repetitive.
and on. There's nothing there to hold my interest. And I know that they're making these movies now with a broader audience. They're trying to get more women into these types of movies, and those are kind of where my tastes are. I'd much rather watch a romantic comedy than your average action movie. But what I love is
the views of Frank do not represent the views of Marvel Superheroes Podcast.
But what I love, and they've been doing this a lot in movies lately, but it's especially well displayed here, where in the midst of the action, which is engaging because it's inventive, it's smart, how they're doing it, there's also comedy and character moments to keep you invested in what's happening. It doesn't just become mindless violence that goes on and on and on. You've got stuff to keep you engaged in it mentally, emotionally. It's not just about the testosterone and who can throw the best punch, and I loved that about it. The other thing is that this movie especially is so freeze-frameable. There's so much going on in the background, in the foreground. There's so many different moving parts of these movies and their action sequences that you can watch them over and over again and focus on a different part of the screen and see something different.
Yeah.
And I love that. But both the action and the comedy. Remember when The Simpsons first came out and people loved The Simpsons because they were throwing so many jokes at you so quickly that you're still laughing at the first joke when another one comes through, and then you watch the episode again and you get the second joke, and it just gives you that greater enjoyment of a show and that speed of comedy. It's hard for people to watch older comedies because the comedy comes so slow that it's so predictable. What I love about these is there's so much going on both in the humor area and in the action area that there's something that's going to get your attention. It's either going to be one or the other or both, and there's so many different moving parts that you're always going to have something to keep your attention throughout multiple viewings and through brief frames. There's going to be times where you're just going to have to watch this movie frame by frame to see these things that you're going to miss otherwise because there's just so much going on.
That pretty much describes the scene, yeah.
So we all like the scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all like
okay,
that scene.
okay.
Okay, now what's your most least favorite scene?
I don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Okay, then we
don't recap the whole movie.
Okay. Then the Avengers are on the run. Banner's had his freak out. Everybody's kind of torn up over their dream sequences. So then we go to the farm.
Well, and they're semi-villainized now by the world.
Right,
because they just blew up another city. Like, that's all they seem to be doing.
And that's one thing I forgot to mention, too. I loved that city was full of black people that you've never seen that
The
before.
views of Frank do not represent the views.
No.
I wish they wouldn't have got their city blown up. Whoa.
In that this scenario, everything that we're seeing plays out exactly like what would have happened in New York City. There's no difference. There's so much remorse. Banner hates himself for what happened. They're trying to save people's lives. They're making sure, trying to protect everybody. It's just like any other city. The cops wear different uniforms. There's a whole lot of black people, but it's no different than would have happened in any other city in any of these other Marvel movies. It's not a big deal.
Isn't that the mission? Isn't that the why we fight? So we can end the fight? So we get to go home? Every time someone tries to win a war before it starts, innocent people die.
The farm.
I liked 90% of the farm scene.
I thought it was a good scene.
And I was genuinely, again, this is where we start to see this Marvel Cinematic Universe is just cutting the ropes that are attaching it to the comic book universe. And if you're okay with that, then I don't see what you would have a problem with any of this. But the fact that he had a wife and kids, who the hell saw that coming?
Was
Anybody see
that in the
coming?
comics?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Well, because in the Ultimate Universe, he did.
Okay, well, I'm not familiar with that aspect.
Didn't read my universe. Marvel Ultimate Universe, don't know enough about Ultimate Universe.
Okay.
So, to me, I was expecting the Black Widow stuff. They never mentioned jack shit about him having a wife and kids. So, the fact that they know Auntie Nat or whatever and everything like that, which I thought was super cool, I had no problem with it at all. And now you realize, damn, like, Hawkeye's out there. He's got some real
reason to fight.
Of course, it makes you wonder, why the hell are you using a bow and arrow if you got a family at home to protect yourself? Grab a shield or something, dude. What the fuck? But I liked it. As much as I've harped on Renner and Hawkeye in these movies, I was like, you know what, damn, dude, he was real in those scenes.
They clearly made an effort to humanize
or make him
Hawkeye and give you a showcase for this character after he got a short trip last time.
I guess they were trying to make him a little more relatable.
Just give him a life. Make him a character.
He was more three-dimensional. He was making him more three-dimensional. So then we had
and of course, this is Linda Cardellini from Freaks and Geeks and Mad Men more recently for me. So
then we had the Stark Rogers.
Well, I just want to say, watching it the first time, I was happy with that sequence. I thought it was interesting, the stuff that was happening on that farm. The second time watching it, I was getting flashbacks to season 2 of Walking Dead. That sequence, when you watch the movie more than once, I think is going to be the opening 20 minutes of Avengers. It's going to be the part that you fast forward through in the future. Because it's okay the first time, and the second time, it just drags, and I fucking hate the interaction between Banner and
Black
Widow in that scene.
That's what I was going to say.
And
the shower part.
Yeah. What the fuck is Nick Fury doing here, too?
No, and that was okay. So these are the two 5% I didn't like. Didn't like the shower. Oh, I was just going to come in there in the shower, just run out of hot water. Well, now I really wish I would have joined you in the shower. And I'm just like, is this it? Like, is this the way is this supposed
That's
to be?
how they flirt?
Supposed to be flirting? Or what is this? Like, this is just bad. It picked right up where the bar scene left off, and I'm like, ugh, I don't like this. Again, I have no problem philosophically with them trying to hook up Natasha and Banner. Like, some people are like, no, he's supposed to be saying Betty. You know what I mean? That's Betty. Banner. Betty. Like, you know what I mean? Or I was expecting him to go Natasha or, Widow or something. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that. It was just I didn't get that.
The chemistry is not there. The dialogue is written for those characters. You're just not buying that.
And then you have the good Captain America, Tony Stark scene, the wood chopping scene.
That's the one I really liked, yeah.
Right. And then you followed that up with, hey, go fix the tractor. And he goes to go work fixing the tractor. And to me, that interaction with Stark and Fury was Banner Black. It was just like, we're just going to lob one-liners back. They're not even having a fucking conversation. It's just cliched one-liners. You're just saying cliched one-liners back and forth. It just didn't I wish it wasn't even in the fucking movie. I understand that later on, I guess.
Well, yeah, but they needed it.
Honestly,
intro.
They didn't need it.
They really didn't.
They didn't need it. Nick Fury didn't have to be in 1 second of this movie. And the other scene he shows up later is the helicarrier shit to hey, we got to get these people off this meteor. Let's just, helicarrier's fixed. Here it is. We're going to do this. And we're going to just get, really, you didn't have to have any of that.
Yeah.
You didn't have any of it.
Well, here's the thing, too, is me and Paquita were watching the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we were discussing who knew what. Okay, do the Avengers know that Phil Coulson's alive? Which Avengers know that Phil Coulson's alive? Which Avengers know that Nick Fury's alive? And trying to break down all this stuff. And that scene, and it was interesting because, like, okay, well, you could do these interesting dynamics where this person doesn't know about this and this person doesn't know about that. And then all of a sudden, Nick Fury shows up and all the Avengers know that he's alive. And it's just like fucking ruined that for that whole, like, wow, it would be really cool if this one does know and this one doesn't know. And you would create, like, that whole sense of betrayal and interesting conflict. And instead, it's like, well, here's Nick Fury. He's still alive. Did I mention that already? So it just hated it. He did not need to be in the movie at all. And they did a good job of making sure to get a lot of cameos in this movie to make sure that a lot of people that have appeared in previous Marvel movies have a legitimate reason to appear in this one movie, including that part with Idris Elba as Heimdall, which I understand he was really pissed off about because he got dragged into there without hardly any warning, and his contract forced him to do that, and he was wanting to do something else, and it got in the way of that.
Shit.
So I understand he was really pissed off to film that sequence for the Marvel movie. But they did such a good job with that on all these other characters, and then Nick Fury shows up, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing here? This is really fucking ham-fisted.
Yep. So I like the farm scene just because it fleshed out Hawkeye and it set up Civil War with the wood chopping scene.
I can agree.
All the lines from Tony Stark and Steve are great. Or I don't trust people who don't have a dark side. All that stuff, and then freaking rips the God.
Yeah, that's so so cool.
So good. And then,
this movie is all about making you side with Captain America over Tony Stark, though.
But as soon as Tony starts to walk away, he's like, hey, and don't take anything out of my pile, right? Like, he's got to get that last jab in before they walk off.
And it's a good one, too. That's
it should have ended right there.
Yeah.
The whole scene should have ended right there. Yeah. Or he could have gone and just fixed the tractor or something. Whatever. You could have had a little nerd moment where he does that. Yeah.
Okay.
Worst hated moment, though. You haven't the scene.
Still not there yet.
Okay.
Really?
You know what's in that cradle? The power to make real change. And that terrifies you.
I wouldn't call it a comfort.
What was the country they were in? Were they back in the United States when they finally... Okay, Dr. Helen Show.
Yep.
Okay. That character for me came out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she was great. I enjoyed her throughout the movie. Didn't know who the hell she was, though, and thought it was just strange that this random Asian scientist chick's showing up. I just checked out on the internet. She is the mother of Amadeus Cho, the sidekick of Hercules in the Incredible Hercules series. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So she actually is a Marvel Universe character with standing. But she's also working with these artificial skins, which is an important part of this movie because it helps explain how Hawkeye isn't dead yet.
Yep.
And then she's enlisted by Ultron to create a enhanced human body for Ultron to download his essence into so that he can evolve past being a machine. And because of that, causing a rift between Ultron and the twins, the Avengers come after Ultron.
Right, and I did like that, where as he's starting to download his mind, she's able to mind read, because he is getting closer to human, because she'd made a comment earlier in the church that she couldn't read his mind. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh shit, and she sort of saw the explosions, the end game of what he was trying to do, and that's where she was like, no, we got to get out of here. Which I really liked that part. So okay, I'm trying to figure out if I should bring this up yet or not. I'm gonna say
right now we're in Korea, and there's all the fightings.
Right, it did kill people that one too. That was
so okay. So now I'll bring this up. This was the worst fucking scene in the whole fucking movie.
Which scene?
From the moment he's running from the Avengers in the 18-wheeler. That's when I checked out of the movie for a little bit, and I was like, what the fuck are they doing in an 18-wheeler? Where he's now like, I gotta hurry up and get my brain downloaded into this coffin-looking thing with the Vision in it. So, but it can't happen instantly. Oh, it's gonna take time. So now, and I'm like, now this is like video game shit, where it's just like, but they're hiding in an 18-wheeler, even though they could all fucking fly, pick everything up and fly, right? And then, we gotta hide out in this 18-wheeler, but it doesn't last for more than 5 seconds because Hawkeye spots him in the Quinjet. So now we gotta start chasing the 18-wheeler, and look, Cap had a long run in this scene where he's jumping on the truck and fighting.
Indiana Jones moment.
Right, yeah. And so Ultron's like, now I gotta unplug myself from the thing. And this is another weird one where the power levels go whack, where it goes from Ultron can blow the fuck out of shit with his powers to he shoots Cap 4 or 5 times without the shield, shoots him in the chest, and he just was like, and rolls backwards onto something. And I'm just like, what is going on in this scene? Yeah. Why is this even happening right now? And then it goes from there.
Why isn't Iron Man having this fight?
Right, why isn't Iron Man having this fight? So then we go from there to then the Ultrons latch on the bottom of the 18-wheeler, their heads open, and jets shoot out of them to make the 18-wheeler start flying. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? To then Scarlet Witch gets in it, and then she makes some weird sexual, like, are you ready for me? Or are you ready for it? And he's like, oh, something like that. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? Sexual comment? And then he opens up the back of the Quinjet, and they like dump the coffin into the open hatch of the Quinjet. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? This movie has just gone completely batshit. Which then goes into the train scene where he's fist fighting Ultron on the train, and then they can't stop the train.
Is it a train or a subway?
It's like a
super train, right?
Yeah, but it's above ground. And then the train goes off the rails, but instead of wrecking, just keeps driving down the street. This continuously never-ending long road alleyway with nothing in the way, and it's just going.
There's stuff in the way. Quicksilver's taking the people out of the way,
but he's taking people. Yeah. Like, it's just, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? Yeah. Is this where you're trying to showcase the twins' powers? Because you've already done that a lot. I guess this is where you're showing that they're good. So Scarlet Witch has to sprinkle, her fingers, and she's stopping the wheels of the train.
I do wonder why she would create a barrier for Ultron instead of just ripping Ultron apart with her powers.
Why? I didn't get.
Is that
I gotta agree with you. Now that I'm thinking about it, that scene, really does kind of take you out of the movie.
The whole scene was. I just didn't.
It made no sense.
I was like, what do they do? Why didn't he just pick up the Vision, since he didn't need the doctor anymore, fly back to his base and just download his shit there. Like, I don't understand. This shit didn't make any sense to me. And loading him up in an 18-wheeler was dumb. Then having the robots have the jets come out of their mouths and then they have to carry. You're all super fucking robots. Pick it up and fly. Like, at that point, I couldn't suspend my disbelief within the movie itself because it was dumb. And then again, Ultron, who at this point has fought Tony Stark and that was the thing. Every time he got blown up, he evolves and gets bigger and bigger. Well, he had a fucking knockdown drag out with Iron Man back at the shipbreaking yard in South Africa. And now Cap's just like, bring it, dude. I don't even have my fucking shield. I'm just gonna slug you to death. And they're just slugging back and forth, and he's taking ray gun shots. And
Captain America is Magnus Robot Fighter in these movies, I gotta say. How does he keep punching shit with his bare hands?
Which is, and I don't mind him busting up the drones, but when he's literally just slugging it out with Ultron, I'm like, now, to me, they weren't.
He obviously has super strength in the movies.
Oh, obviously has super strength in these movies, and I know that's kind of been something in these universes. They're not sure. Does Cap have super strength? I think it's pretty solidified in this series. He's got super strength. Yeah. He's not just peak human anymore. He's got super strength. Yeah.
There is no human that can ride a motorcycle, flip it, and throw it through the air.
Yeah.
It's just no.
So everything from what Hawkeye and Black Widow were doing, trying to get, and I know there's more stupid shit that I'm not remembering right now, but there was just stupid shit scene after stupid shit scene, and I just didn't understand why any of it was in the movie.
No, that scene completely takes you out. Now that I think
completely.
About it.
Can I just say real quick, since you guys are in total agreement, with the exception of it being weird for me that Cap was fighting Ultron for a long time.
For a long time.
And not because it's bad enough that he's fighting him. Period. Honestly, as a Cap fan, I'm like, what? Really, Ultron? It's just you're out of your league. But for so long, but I actually didn't check out at that point. I was good with the semi. I was good with the subway train. I didn't get taken out until Black Widow rides the Vision casket into the Quinjet and then falls out the back of the Quinjet, and it happens so quick. I'm like, did you just follow her death? And everybody's like, did you get her? No, I didn't get her. Did you get her? I didn't get her. What the fuck? That's what made me check out of the scene. I was like, what the fuck happened to Black Widow?
That's right. And then she vanished.
Yeah.
And we were like,
well, no. You see Ultron grab her.
Yeah, I saw that the second time. Yeah. I didn't catch it
the first time. And I think what part of what really pissed me off about the train is that it went off because they keep showing the barrier, like, oh, it's gonna hit the barrier. And then like for something happened that kind of distracted me. And then I realized we're a couple minutes later and the train's still going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the?
Yeah,
They kept showing that barrier, like, oh my god, we're gonna hit the barrier. And then it just kind of kept going.
They hit it and kind of put a shield up to block the stuff debris coming in. Yeah. I'm not saying that was smart.
That
was after the Black Widow part. So
it didn't ruin the movie for me the reason it didn't ruin the movie for me is partially why I hate it. Is because it was really fucking meaningless to the rest. All you were just trying to do is set up the Vision a little bit, which everything from when he shoots Asian doctor lady, everything after that sucked up until we get the coffin or whatever. And this.
Yeah, I think they call it a casket, don't they?
It's a casket, but it's also something else with a C that I'm gonna talk to you about here coming up soon. It's a bit of a cocoon, is it not?
Okay,
it's a bit of
I can see where you're going with that.
Banner looks at the butterfly,
and he does. He looks at the butterfly, right? Which
symbolism. Symbolism.
It's not
symbolism.
It's not really just symbolism. It's Adam Warlock.
See some of that. I can see some of that.
But what was the gem in Adam Warlock's head?
I can see that. Yeah,
it's the
I can
soul
see
gem.
where you're going there. Sure.
So what they did is they don't want to go to the trouble of explaining Adam Warlock and the Vision when in a lot of ways they're kind of similar characters. Mm-hmm. So to me, this movie meshed the two together.
I did not catch that until you mentioned it, but I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
But the Vision's Adam Warlock.
So in the comic books, did the Vision have a gem in the comic books?
Yeah.
He's got a gem, but it's not an Infinity Gem.
No, yeah, exactly.
Adam Warlock's got a gem.
Yeah,
it's an Infinity Gem. Adam Warlock is a machine created by man to be the evolution of man, right? He's
God.
He's a god. He's a god. He evolves to godlike status.
Well, I would say he's a false messiah, which is one of the things that makes him very difficult to use in a Marvel.
There is an aura of that around Vision once he comes about.
I'm not sure if I would go quite that far, but well, let's hold on.
Mjolnir?
We're getting a little ahead now.
We're getting ahead of it. That's why I was not sure when I should bring this up.
Yeah. So I just want to say too, one of my worst scenes was what the fuck is going on with Ultron kidnapping Black Widow and showing off his new evolution? What the fuck is happening there? Why is that happening? And why is the girl on the team, the damsel in distress, who gets captured and locked up by Ultron?
He says that he
has been rescued.
To watch it. He wanted someone to watch.
Here's the thing about this movie.
It's a cop-out, but
I enjoy this movie. I think it's very entertaining, but this is a movie where obviously somebody went through it and no prized the shit out of it in the actual script, so they're trying to deflect it. They're trying to turn it into
Yeah.
Teflon, and it doesn't fucking work. 'Cause
No.
that is still stupid as shit. You're right. They did give it motivation. I don't fucking buy
didn't make
it, and it's just dumb
Well,
as
because
shit.
didn't he even earlier in the movie say, "Oh, what you want me to be a classic supervillain and tell you my whole plan right here?" And then he like shoots him.
Yeah.
And then later on, he takes one of them and tells
Yeah.
him his whole plan right in
Right.
front. of
It's so fucking dumb.
like so fucking stupid.
You didn't see that coming?
But that also leads to another. This was kind of just a series of dumb shit in this movie that I feel like they wrote a beginning and they wrote an end, and they got to a point where the bridges didn't line up, and they were like, shit, we got to make something to get this line up.
We've got a release date to hit.
Right. So it's when they've got the Vision and they're trying to figure out how to make Vision come to life, and Thor just explodes out of nowhere.
Yeah, but hold on. Before you touch that, I loved when Cap is confronted by the twins and they're like, Tony Stark?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing with this Tony Stark guy? And he's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, what the fuck am I doing with Tony Stark guy? And I fucking loved it when they're all getting together and they're arguing over what to do with the Vision. Bruce and Tony want to activate the Vision and use him against Ultron. The twins and Cap are like, what the fuck are you doing? You already did this before. You're fucked in the head. And Quicksilver just goes, speeds around, shuts
Just
everything down.
destroys the fuck out of
What?
everything. Yeah.
That was a great scene.
That was
and
fantastic.
Then Thor completely ruins it with that stupid ass, what the fuck's going on
The
here?
Frankenstein moment.
Look, it was the Frankenstein moment. Why does electricity from the sky create some sort of
Life.
finish getting Jarvis's brain? This shit don't make no sense, even
Well,
within the
and
context
again, you're
of the
talking about
movie.
the Thor in the waters too, where he goes get Stellan Skarsgård and he goes in the waters and he sees all these fucking visions and all this shit.
But it showed the Infinity Gems though.
Yeah, I
It
get
served a
that.
purpose.
Still really fucking dumb and really fucking hyper convenient to the point where that was booting me right out of the fucking movie.
It was weird.
How do you go through that long sequence of explaining all this shit through visuals and still fail to in any way explain how the hell this shit's supposed to work? And leave me wondering, like, where did that scene go? Where's
Yeah,
that?
that was another one of those where it's like, hey, doctor, I'm here in an Audi. I'm Thor. I'm like, all right, that's cool. And then all of a sudden they're walking down rocks into like a pool. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, where did they go?
Right.
Did they go to this Fortress of Solitude where this pool is? Is it just, oh no, it's down the street from where you teach. You didn't know that, right? Like, we're in Oslo,
Right.
wherever the fuck he was at.
And he's got this,
It's very weird.
again, this little casket thingy. What is that? I don't know.
What is
I don't
that?
explain
Nobody
any of
knows
that
what it
shit.
is.
Yeah.
Again,
Ragnarok.
they had to fit it into 2 hours.
But I did like Naked Red Vision bouncing up out of the casket. Just because you're like, because I guarantee you, people who don't know who the Vision is and people who hadn't seen stuff from the trailers, hell, even me, is like, what the fuck is Naked Red guy doing hopping up out of the fucking casket? That was a trip.
Yeah, it was his birth was very strange.
Yeah. But I liked it because he's kind of fearsome. He looks like, whoa, shit, this red guy looks like demonic and stuff. So I like that. And then he became Dr. Manhattan almost immediately.
Yeah, pretty much. I got that vibe.
Adam Warlock.
Yeah. And it's funny too though that you mentioned that because Vision as portrayed in this movie is super ponderous. He's this guy who's like thinking about the nature of humanity and shit and giving these long speeches. And you're right, that's an Adam Warlock thing to do. It's not a Vision thing to do. And I kind of think the character is the lesser for it because I was expecting to really fucking love the Vision and him to be really cool and dark and intense. And when he's all like, oh, humanity is so flawed and they're doomed, but I love them and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're really fucking harshing my mellow over here.
His line about, I don't want to destroy Ultron, but if I don't destroy Ultron, he destroys humans. So I have to destroy Ultron. The logic, I thought it worked. I almost
It wasn't terrible. It's just that, is that the Vision though? That didn't feel like the Vision to me.
No, but again, that's what I'm saying. They're sort of having to,
he's out of
he has to be more than the Vision. Yeah. So they're kind of having to push him in a different, because they got to cut, it's getting further away from the Marvel Universe. So he's not going to be the Vision.
But it's also kind of a worst of both worlds because that's not the Adam Warlock I like. I like the fucking schizophrenic delusions of grandeur Adam Warlock, which they won't touch on. Yeah, they won't do that in the Marvel movies, I guarantee you. And it's not the like cold, emotionless, logical, like again,
Spock.
like this the good Ultron that the Vision is often in the comic books. It's this weird amalgam of the two, and it's like when again he's Data. It's the whole Data thing from Next Generation, and it's like, oh god, is that what their Vision's going to be? But thankfully they didn't.
It didn't get that bad.
It didn't get that bad though.
I thought he looked fantastic.
Very childlike.
He looked cool.
I thought he looked really
it's
cool.
It's a nice design because
nobody's going to mistake him as human Iron Man because he's red.
Yeah. I'm so glad they had the balls to keep the cape too because it really worked.
That
for
was
the character.
I like when he looked at Thor and cape came down. Yeah, that was
I
good.
need some of that. Yeah. But it didn't look great in some of the still photographs, and I was kind of afraid he was going to be looking like a doofus in the movie. But within the context of the movie, it looks so good.
Well, no, shit, that's why Thor went into the pool, because that is how they name him the Vision.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason they did that.
No prize.
That's the whole reason they did it, was so that he could say, I saw him in the Vision. So we'll call him the Vision.
Well, the only thing I didn't like when they did the close-ups to his face, I don't know, it just bothered me.
The textures?
Yeah.
Oh, I like the textures. It looks synthetic. I kind of dug that too. Yeah. It looks synthetic. At first, I thought it was kind of carbon fiberish, but it wasn't. But it didn't look like makeup. I thought it looked really cool. I thought it looked cool.
It was a long process too. The guys were making fun of what's the actor's name?
The Vision guy.
They were making fun of Paul Bettany because all their shit was CGI, or it was just some rubber suits they were putting on, and Bettany's like 4 hours in, 4 hours out of that fucking thing. So they were teasing him pretty hardcore.
I thought it looked really good. Yeah, I kept. I was focusing on the skin because I was like, shit, is he painted? I was like, he's not painted. That's like a texture. It
goes to show cool. You look at that, and then you look at the Ryan Reynolds suit from Green Lantern. Sometimes it's just better to go practical. Go practical. It's real. People are reacting to it. You can see it. It's real. It's on his fucking flesh. It looks cool. Whereas Ryan Reynolds looked like a dumbass. So
I didn't see it.
It's terrible. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a bad movie.
Okay, so from here,
I think from here we can kind of skip to the end.
Yeah, we're just
it rapidly gets to the end.
Yeah.
Here. So what do we? Okay, so he reveals to Black Widow. His plan is to basically recreate the extinction event, because that's how humans. He's trying to force humanity to evolve. And how did humanity evolve from the dinosaurs? It was after a meteor strike, right? And he's like, he kind of says earlier how he's sort of obsessed with the meteor strike.
Yeah.
He can't believe that this gigantic piece of rock came down and resets everything, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to try and redo that. And he, through science, has a way to like magnetize a chunk of rock that he's going to levitate in the air and drop and blow up all of Earth. What do we think of all that?
It's super comic booky, but if I've accepted a lot of the other stuff in this movie, I actually can deal with that.
To me, I heard Frank's voice, and it's going to be so funny. When we went to go see the first X-Men movie, and we walked out, and I remember asking Frank, what do you think? And you were like, it was okay, except they had to go all comic booky with the mutant machine.
Which I still think is horrible, by the way.
And literally, when they talked about
the mutant machine.
When they talked about lifting that piece of, like, when they're lifting up the comet, and I heard Frank go, oh great, now it's a gravity machine. I heard the exact quote from him, so I was thinking, yeah, they weren't super comic booky.
But that's the thing. The X-Men movie was grounded in something very similar to our reality. This is obviously a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more willing to accept this.
I mean, I like that he thought he was helping mankind, Ultron, which was kind of cool. Though in the manner that he took it to was a little good with the giant, I'm going to drop a rock.
Here's the thing. It was so ridiculous, I actually respected it.
Yeah.
Really? He didn't just put it, he didn't just get the nuke codes, right?
You know, there's a comic book that happened.
Oh, no, they hinted at that too. That every time.
Oh, yeah, repeatedly.
They made sure to cover all the bases, because everybody's going to say, well, why don't you use nukes?
It was Jarvis.
Because every time.
It turned out Jarvis was the one that was blocking.
So it was kind of cool where they let you know that these other things could happen, but there was an unknown force blocking them.
Right.
So
and we haven't seen that movie. We haven't seen the movie where an entire European country is lifted up and going to be dropped on the Earth as the extinction level event. That was
I liked it. I thought it was a cool idea.
And I thought they're trying to.
And it looked cool. I liked all the debris dropping off of it the whole time it's lifting up. It reminded me of some like old Japanese animation, but with like the pretty kind.
Yeah.
With,
it makes sense that it doesn't. It's not just a bomb going off, right? Where it's like, why did he set a timer? The timer makes sense. It has to get higher before it can drop and cause the most damage. So to me, at first I was like, what the fuck? He's levitating. It makes sense.
I love the fact that he said it was so simple. You know, you have this rock in the sky, hit, and it resets the clock.
Yeah.
And it was so. I like that. Like you said, with a bomb or something like that, you start getting complicated with getting the materials together to create this bomb, or someone already made the bomb.
It's just that everybody's got. No, the thing with bombs is that there should be no suspense. The villain just blows up the bomb, right? But you have to have time for the plot to work out. It actually makes sense. The engines can only lift this gigantic piece of rock so far, so fast, so that gives time for the plan to unravel.
Well, and they established too, this Ultron is crazy eccentric, so it makes sense for him to have a crazy eccentric plot. Yeah.
Only Tony would say, I'm not going to use a bomb. I'm going to drop a big rock.
Yeah.
Let's go old school.
Okay, I'm not going to open this door very wide, but I'm going to open it with a crack. Man of Steel was a movie I didn't hate. I liked probably half to 3/4 of it the first time I saw it. And then with repetition and just talking about it, because I haven't actually seen it again. I just have talked about it and seen scenes from it and heard so many dismissive comments about it. And I remember the movie well enough, But here's the thing. Watching this movie made me retroactively hate Man of Steel so hard.
Really?
And it's this movie just like, it's this great big middle figure pressing into the face of Superman. cursing in Superman's face, so the spittle is dripping onto him. Because one of my favorite things in this movie was watching the sequence in Slovenia where the heroes go into the country and they're doing everything they can to evacuate as many innocent people as possible. And they're just driving these people out of the country through any means they can come up with, which yielded some good comedy moments too.
Yeah.
Because their first priority, the thing they're most concerned about, is saving innocent human lives.
So they're
it's
not collateral
about the
damage.
Fight. Yeah. And then once the actual island country goes into the air, what are they trying to do? They're trying to figure out, how can we save these people? How can we save everybody? But how can we also save these people? Even if we die ourselves, we've got to figure out how we're going to save these people. And you never saw that in that Superman movie. And and this movie is full of instances of the heroes going in there and saving somebody in the last minute. I especially loved, I did catch this in the trailer or something, where there's a scene where Cap is trying to grab onto a car that's about to fall off the ledge.
Yeah.
And he grabs the bumper, again, obviously superhuman strength. The bumper rips free, the car goes down. It's like, oh man, when I saw that in the teasers, it was like, that's going to be a dark moment. That's going to fuck Cap up, that he's incredible as he is, he couldn't save this one life. And then between teamwork with Cap and Thor, he does save that life. They save every fucking life for the most part. There's a few cops that get nailed by gunfire and shit, but virtually every innocent person they try to save, which is every person that you see imperiled in the first place, they save them. This is a movie about heroes saving people. I fucking love that. I felt so good to see
like
it.
You said,
I got chills.
meticulously saving.
And all the interesting, imaginative ways they found to save people instead of fucking Superman driving Zod into building after building.
Killing people.
Yeah. It made such a difference to me. It made me feel so good, and it reminded me of why I enjoy superheroes and why I enjoy these superhero movies. I don't want to see movies full of collateral damage. I want to see these people get saved.
I think that's a little sprinkle of Disney right there.
And in recent years, we've had all these tsunamis and all these fucking terrible events where all these people are dying, and you can't do anything to save them. And here's a world, this fantasy world, where these people have the power to save people, and they do, and we get to see that happen, and that just makes my heart glow. I love that so much.
Well, and I think the other thing is that in a lot of ways, this is the answer to Avengers 1, where they talk about, it spills into Daredevil, where it's like all of this damage that was caused, and it's like, well, who the fuck is answering for any of this shit? And this time, they're like, you can tell they're a team now. This is how we do shit now. We don't just wreck everything. We got to do this, and we got to save all these fucking people. And it also is a redemption for Wanda and Pietro, because it was that destruction from Tony Stark that killed their
and again,
family.
One of the best scenes of the movie is Wanda realizing how culpable she is for these actions, and Hawkeye having to talk her down off the ledge essentially and go, look, quit fucking crying and fix it.
That was
awesome such a great scene.
Yeah, where he was like, none of this makes any sense. He goes, I'm a guy trying to save people with gods, and I got a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. Now, will you snap out of it and get out there and get back in? Yeah.
And by the way, you got to admit too, she fucking owned that sequence when she just walks out. She just annihilated.
Just started
Ultron,
blowing everything up. Yeah. Again, when the rock started levitating, I was like, oh no, this might get really shitty. And then you kind of had the whole helicarrier moment where Tony Stark's trying to get the propulsion system, and you got Thor, and but they laced it through with the saving Hawkeye saving the kid, and then are we gonna talk about the big one?
No, we have as deep as we're going into this. I'm gonna have to edit the shit out of this too.
Okay, but I just want to talk about the one scene I didn't like.
If it doesn't work, I'll cut it.
The one scene I really didn't like.
Go ahead.
Is when Wanda has Ultron on the ground.
Oh no, too soon. We'll come back to that.
I really hated that scene.
So you want to address?
Yeah. So it's to the point where they've got the helicarrier shows up, which I talked about earlier. The helicarrier just shows up out of nowhere, and they start saying. So they
found the one helicarrier, and they found these spare floating platforms to offload everybody on. That was such a sci-fi movie. That's like, okay, you've gone too far. This is something from this is supposed to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is not supposed to be something that S.H.I.E.L.D. had. Not even good shit that S.H.I.E.L.D. had. This is shit they had mothball that he managed to dig up out of nowhere. It just it negates so much what happened in the Winter Soldier and what has happened in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. And get the fuck out of my movie, Nick Fury and Maria.
Nick Fury, go away. That's what I was saying earlier. This didn't need to be in the movie either. It felt like they introduced him to have the helicarrier later.
And they had that super forced wannabe Galaga moment where the guy can't figure out how to say that.
I'm
that
telling
was so
you.
bad.
Some of the kooky, they didn't go.
A lot of the comedy's good, but every now and again
they didn't go Batman and Robin with it. But every now and then you get the Batman Robin. Freeze. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh, come on, dude. That's
holy metal, great Batman.
Yeah, just too shticky. So they're getting people off. Hawkeye sees one kid who they make it look like he's kind of trapped under something. Turns out he wasn't trapped under anything.
He's like holding.
He's just
something.
He's just grunting out in the field. So Hawkeye has to run out there.
I think he's holding onto a pipe and he's dangling.
But you can see in Renner's Banner's inner monologue, you can see he's like, I'm on the ship. I'm safe. It's time for me to go home to my family. I gotta go get the fucking kid. I gotta go get saved. So he gets up, even though everybody's like, no, we're good to go. Let's get the hell out of here. Jumps off, goes, and he gets the kid. And
Ultron's flying in and starting to try to mow people down with the airship that he's got, shooting
the Quinjet, wasn't it?
It's the Quinjet, right?
Quinjet,
yeah.
So he starts firing the Quinjet, bap, 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 and you think that Hawkeye got killed, which everybody thought Hawkeye was going to die in this movie.
They were so much.
And I was like, holy shit. Well, I know Jeremy Renner signed on for the next movie, but what if it's all flashback shit? What if it's all Obi-Wan, right?
Right.
And so I was like, damn, maybe they are going to kill him, because, you know, the house scene introducing us to his wife and kids, how she's like, you know, I like that you
and then they did that on purpose, too.
Oh, my God, they're totally going to...
Oh, I was patting Fix on the side, like, oh, he's totally going to die. Like,
I kind of knew he wasn't going to.
Because it was so telegraphed.
Yeah, it was like, whenever they showed Pedro running, I was like, I kind of already figured he was going to get it.
Well, anyway, hey, he got it. So I didn't think they were going to fucking kill Quicksilver. I was as sideswiped by that as I was with them walking into... I thought when they went to the little house out in the field that it was going to be Nick Fury in there.
Yeah.
And it turned out his wife and kids, pregnant wife and kids. I was as floored by that as I was floored by Quicksilver getting killed. I had no clue they were going to kill Quicksilver off in this movie, because he's in every poster. I thought that he was going to be part of Cap's Kooky Quartet.
Right, exactly.
We've got him from the X-Men. He's our X-Man that we have. He's even appeared in the X-Men movies, and they killed him off. And I was like, whoa, holy shit. Like, and then where Scarlet Witch is just screaming because her twin has been killed.
Yeah.
Totally. All that was badass. I thought all that was fantastic. I thought they did a good job with all that.
And also with the deep cleavage and the skirt and the knee highs and the falling and all that wasn't that I was feeling emotions I wasn't supposed to feel.
Inappropriate sexiness. Yeah.
Don't do this.
What choice do we have?
But yeah, and I assume that the reason why they killed him off is because of the whole franchise sharing. They didn't have to share Quicksilver, and they gave him a moment that they couldn't have in the X-Men movies. And if they try, well, guess what? The Avengers already did it first.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, which Quicksilver do we prefer? Days of Future Past?
I never saw it. And I also, the other reason why I thought for sure he was going to be there is because of the Inhumans, and he's had that tie with Crystal and Inhumans. I thought that's why it never crossed my mind. Quicksilver.
Yeah, it never occurred to me they might kill Quicksilver.
I had no clue.
I really didn't think any of them were going to die.
I kind of thought that was going to be the point, was that they were going to show all of ours survived this. Yeah,
I thought that's what it was going to be. I was like, well, what the hell? Because there was the talk about that someone's going to die, right? I was thinking to myself, why the hell did any of these people have to die? Because they're just going to make Thor go away and Iron Man's going to go away, right? And so they got me.
Yeah,
got me.
Did you see Days of Future Past?
No.
Okay, so you don't have a basic comparison. I prefer the Marvel Quicksilver. I think that the scene in Days of Future Past featuring Quicksilver is a great scene. It's like the peak of that movie. Almost everything from the movie is downhill from that. Though. Yeah, they're two different guys. But that's the thing is,
this one's war torn. He's bitter. Right. The other one is just a sarcastic asshole kid who's just really fast and is very arrogant.
And he's going to be in Apocalypse, isn't he?
Yeah. But Wolverine hints that, he was a lot different when I met him. So you get the sense that something bad happens down the line that turns him to that really cold character that we read in the book. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to say which is your favorite, because I like them both. I just think the more enjoyable character was the Days of Future Past, just because it was humorous. His humor was funnier. The part where, he tapes up the guard and he's like, so, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I killed the president. He's like, he kind of looks at the guy, like, that little humor goofiness was cool. Where this one, he really didn't have, except for the Thor hammer joke.
No, well, he had the scene where he ran into the police station. It's like, everyone get out of here. And then he leaves and they're all like, what an idiot. And then he comes back and starts firing the Kalashnikov. And
I sure forgot that was a good scene.
No, like I said, I like the depth of that character. I liked the role they play. I'm really sorry he's not going to be in future movies, because I liked that it showed the international scope of the Avengers. I thought that that was probably the single best scene in Days of Future Past. It was definitely the peak of the movie. It was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
So it was both a highlight, and it's also like, man, that's where the movie stops being good. But also the character himself. It's a great scene, but I don't think the character was all that interesting. And he was so Impulse. He was so Bart Allen from DC Comics, where the guy in the Avengers is Quicksilver from the Marvel Comics.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay.
So is that the end of the movie now?
No.
Now what's the scene you hated?
The scene that you hated.
Oh, okay. So the scene I really hated was where Wanda is standing over Ultron. And the dialogue was so bad because it was, what did he say?
You're going to die here.
No.
Or something along those lines.
You leave. You're going to die here. I already have. And then he's like, what did it feel like? And then she reaches in and yanks out his robotic heart, at which part he just turns off and jumps in another robot.
So, they already told you earlier, his body doesn't matter. He just goes from Ultron to Ultron.
As long as there's one tooling around, he'll always jump into that one. And I remember I was sitting there and I was like, I get that was her revenge scene, but it was so lame.
It totally reminded me of Terminator Salvations. He gave the Terminator his heart.
Give him my heart so he can live on.
That was I'd forgotten that was dumb. I rolled my eyes at that scene. I'm like, you serious? She's pulling out his robot heart.
Oh no! And then she holds it in her. I really thought she was gonna take a bite. I thought she was gonna smother it or.
Oh, I thought it was gonna beat.
It
I thought it was gonna beat or something.
I thought she was gonna like destroy it somehow, and I was just like, that made no sense. You realize he's just in another robot running down the street now. Like you spent this time talking to him, and he pretty much laughed you off. But then I just thought that was really stupid.
I totally bought the scene.
Really?
I enjoyed it. Well, because I enjoyed the character so much, and I think
he just got a hard on for it.
I was so invested in the emotionality of her character in that scene that I didn't apply the logic. You guys tell me why y'all didn't like it, and I totally understand where you're coming from logically, but emotionally I was hooked into that character, and so I was feeling her emotions, and I wasn't thinking about it logically. I enjoyed it.
I guess I'm sort of in the middle. Like I said, when he dies and she knows that he's dead and she just fucking loses it, I was like, holy shit,
that was a cool scene.
That's badass. But I like that so much. Like I said, I'd forgotten about the heart pull scene. I guess I just mind wiped myself. At the time, I was like, wow, that's really fucking stupid. He doesn't have a heart. He's a robot.
Yeah.
And he beams himself from robot to robot all the time. He told Iron Man that earlier. So I thought that was stupid and probably didn't need to be in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it detracted.
To me, that took me out of the battle. Like, the battle was good, and up to that point, I was like, that was a misstep, and I was just kind of like, I mean, it didn't take me out, but I was just kind of like, that was really lame. Like, that was a scene that could have been thrown on the floor. We could have done
Well, and the fact that it almost immediately goes another scene where Ultron's still kicking, talking to Vision, and you're like, oh, well, don't tell her. She didn't really get her the revenge she thought she did, you know?
Which I thought that was a great scene, when they were kind of talking to each other. Though the joke was, I don't know how I feel about that joke.
What was the joke again? Remind me.
He's like, oh, you're so naive, and he's like, technically, I was born
yesterday. Hey, I bet those people around you in the theater thought that was funny, though, didn't they? That's right, because a bunch of stupid fucking people laughed at that joke, and it was not funny.
That joke just, I don't know how to take it. Like, it was.
You can take it and throw it in the trash, because it sucked.
All set up, boss.
Actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything. Make everyone look cooler.
Okay, y'all jumped ahead just a little bit, though. I liked the last-minute inclusion of War Machine. I enjoyed the Gatling guns blasting the Ultrons in the face, and I loved that we got to see Vision using his powers and War Machine reacting to that. That was a lot of fun. And then all that shit where the Vision and Ultron are having a conversation against an orange sunset that looked like something out of Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
And that long, stupid conversation about the nature of humanity. Fucking cut that shit. This is one of those ones where Joss Whedon definitely didn't kill his darlings, because there's some scenes in there where you're like, he must have been in love with that scene, and it sucks.
No, yeah, everybody's like, how do we tell Josh this scene sucks? Like, he really likes this scene. How do we tell him this sucks? We can't tell him this sucks. I didn't think it sucked. I thought the joke made me want the whole scene to go away. Yeah. Before that, I thought it was sort of trying to get some closure.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was closure.
They were semi-opposites, but
brothers.
They weren't.
I guess you would say brothers.
Right, they were sort of, right. So I just felt that there should have been more. I thought the closure needed to be more with Tony Stark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but again, it really felt like,
I don't feel like Tony even says earlier, I want the big guy. Like, I don't felt they ever closed that off. Instead, he was just
Tony kind of disappears in this.
He was trying to get the meteor. He was trying to get the meteor.
And he's doing the same fucking thing he already did with the helicarrier in the previous movie.
Yep.
It's just like, let's get him out of the way. You know, it's like I heard.
I just realized that now. Yeah, you're right. He kind of vanished.
Yeah, with Star Wars, my understanding is that they had a bunch of stuff for Harrison Ford to do in the upcoming Star Wars movie, and because he fucked up his ankle, they had to give a bunch of his scenes to some of the other actors. And this movie, it felt like there's a bunch of stuff written for Tony Stark, and they went and they gave this to Vision. They gave this to Captain America to diminish his role by Marvel edict or something. Because I really do feel like Marvel's trying to downplay Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man at this point.
I know, like we've talked about this before. I just could never see something like that.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that they're trying
I remember I told you that I said you're going to have to get used to it, but he was so much better but that was coming off of Iron Man 3. Yeah. He was so much better again in this movie. It's going to suck when he's out of these movies.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is
he's just
you can see how they're trying to emphasize other characters, and it works, I think, best with Captain America. But what's funny is all it takes is Downey Jr. to get that one good, well-played singer, and you're like, oh fuck, how are you going to make a movie without Robert Downey Jr.? You just can't do it.
No.
Whereas Iron Man 3, he was Jack Sparrow.
His timing is perfect. His timing is so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, they're just that boom, and you're just like, yeah, that was good.
And you feel sometimes like Scarlett Johansson's trying to do she's trying to deliver the one-liner. It ain't working.
Yeah.
But that's obviously another Josh Whedon. Is it Joss or Josh?
Joss.
Some of the Joss Whedon thing, and I know everybody complains about this. And so now we've kind of reached the end of this movie, right? We kind of reached the end of
The only thing I want to mention is I loved that the Vision's the one who swooped in and grabbed Scarlet Witch, because foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Because foreshadowing, yeah.
I kind of like the Hulk sitting in the Quinjet flying away.
That was great.
Yeah,
we
I
didn't
really
talk about that either.
I love that scene.
Why don't you describe that
Well,
scene?
that scene is, so...
It's again with Ultron in the Quinjet
Ultron
again.
is in the Quinjet and he's shooting at everybody, and the Hulk jumps in the back, and all you hear is Ultron, for the love of God.
Yeah, that was
He's like,
great.
really? And you see Ultron being thrown out of the Quinjet, which he lands, and then Wanda does her little thing. And, of course, the Quinjet is under, what is it?
Stealth mode.
Like stealth mode, where they can't track it. And, of course, you know, no one can get to him. Black Widow is trying to, like, come on, big guy, I need you to calm down. I need the other guy back. And the Hulk touches the screen and turns it off and just sits there. And it has kind of a moment of reflection, like I can disappear now. Like, because he kept telling her during the movie.
Yeah, that was a thread, and we didn't touch on
it,
that.
yeah.
So that was a thread that.
Well, because we didn't really, or y'all didn't seem to really like the relationship,
I liked
the chemistry,
relationship.
the chemistry of them.
I thought some of those scenes were forced. The scene I did like, which I think a lot of people from what I've read did not like, was where she goes into where he was like, you know, I'm fucking Incredible Hulk. We can't have kids. I got gamma bombed, dude. I don't have any. There's nothing swimming down on my balls or anything. You know, and so
or what I've got could fucking. It's like that Spider-Man miniseries that Kara Andrews did, where his irradiated sperm gives her Mary Jane Watson cervical cancer, and she dies from the cancer from his radioactive sperm.
Didn't read that.
No, but I'm picking it up now.
You're like
Marvel Unlimited, here we come.
Marvel Unlimited, save us. Then she goes into when you graduate, they sterilize you because that's the last thing that could get between you and your mission. A lot of people did not like that scene because she's saying that makes her a monster, and of course people are like, oh, so now if you're sterile, you're a monster. No, what she's saying
she's
is
a monster because of all the fucked up shit she did after that.
She no longer. There's nothing holding her back.
She's a killing machine, just like the Hulk is. You know what I mean?
Actually, she's worse because she's doing it on purpose.
Right.
Where Hulk is, just berserker rages.
And to me, that's where they stopped kind of doing the one-liners.
Well, sometimes they're just looking for fucking outrage too. Some people are just like, it's just like there's a lot of anger about the Terra Nocta thing, the joke that Tony makes when he's trying to become king of Asgard, and he's going to reinstate that thing where the king gets to sleep with anybody's bride if he wants to.
See, I didn't get that joke.
I got that joke. Oh,
it's a Braveheart thing.
Braveheart joke, yeah.
And it's one of those where A, you have to be pretty educated to even get the joke, but B,
which is why
could you not be offended by this? Just obviously he's just being an asshole.
Yeah, well, it's
Can
Tony.
you not go out of your way to be offended by something?
Yeah.
Do you have to be that fucking sensitive?
Welcome to 2015, folks.
Yeah.
But back to the scene. I love the scene that you just see the Hulk sitting in a jet and he's just flying off.
It's a wonderful scene.
So that's what I'm saying. The Natasha Banner stuff, for those two scenes that I hated, with the shower scene and the bar scene, I did like where she's opening up that, look, no, think about it. We're more alike than you think.
Right.
You're the Incredible Hulk and I'm just a
Again, though, it's her explaining why that relationship should work, and I agree that's why the relationship should work, and it just doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I did kind of feel something where she was like, no, you got to come back. We got to find you. And then he does. He just bloop, closes the screen. And then he just sort of crosses his arms and sits down like, time Hulk go bye-bye. Like, Hulk, get hell out of here.
That's a really iconic image, I think. I think you're going to see that a lot.
I actually heard the music in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
But
I heard
the thing,
it in
though,
the
when
I liked
Bruce
it more.
Banner,
I liked it more for Hulk than I did for Black Widow, though.
My second most hated scene, though, is when Bruce Banner shows up to rescue Black Widow, and he shoots the lock off, and they're talking about whether or not they're going to run away again. That was so horrible. And then, of course, she betrays him for the greater good, and that's what sets that off. So a good thing came out of that, but I hated Bruce Banner just randomly shows up.
I'm telling you, that's another one where it's like he's inside this huge, and he literally turns the corner, and she's locked him in a cell there. That's another. That was in my freaking notes. That's another one of those scenes where you're like, how small is this soundstage? Like you said, he just walks in off the soundstage.
I believe it's the same size as his apartment.
Bruce just roaming around Ultron Man and gets to their fucking stronghold. No fucking problem.
I'm telling you,
so stupid.
It's a fucking comic book movie.
That's just bad. That's not a comic book movie. That's
a comic book movie, dude. It's because they don't have the two. He would have had to put another 5 fucking minutes in it to show
running down hallways,
to him sneaking around, going Metal Gear Solid around the fucking Ultrons to make it there. And it's just I know they could have just had him Hulk out some other way. I totally get it. But they were trying to do the band. I know.
To set up that one great shot.
Right. And they did so.
Wait, boy, you pay a high price for that fucking shot, though.
I know.
No, because we haven't finished into the movie yet.
Okay.
We're almost into the movie because the Hulk's gone now. So then we get to the new Avengers facility. I like that they worked in new Avengers.
Yeah.
You know, but why the fuck is this facility in upstate New York, and why is it staffed with all these SHIELD
underground
SHIELD agents?
Why is it underground now?
You know, it's like upstate New York. That's the X-Men's property. You can't fucking do that shit.
Right down the street.
You can have Quicksilver, but you cannot be in upstate New York, motherfuckers. And why do they have to be in New York? And how the hell does that even work? Because you're still in the United States. You don't think the government's going to be coming after you in upstate New York? I know you're in the woods. Good for you. But they're still going to come after you. So that was. I'm sorry.
What did you think of the new Avengers, though?
Well, is there anything we need to discuss? Okay, we got to talk. Okay, can I get credit? I fucking called it.
What?
Hulk's gone. Thor's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Man's gone. It's not quite Cap's kooky quartet, but it's pretty fucking close. Yeah. War Machine, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Cap, Black Widow are the Avengers.
I think it's no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Iron Man's gonna come back anyway.
Seem kind of West Coasty to me.
No, well, you see what they're gonna do though, right? You get it, don't you?
Well, the first Infinity will be...
No. Civil War, dude.
Yeah, it's Civil War.
They're setting it up for Civil War. They have to have a lower powered team of Avengers and a cheaper team of Avengers because Robert Downey Jr. is eating up that budget, and you got to have
island money.
Yeah, and you got to have somebody who can split up the Avengers. Well, obviously, Rhodey goes to Tony, and Scarlet Witch goes to Cap, and you're like, whose loyalties are going to go with who? So that's what it is. Those Avengers exist. That team exists only so they can split them up in Civil War.
I can see that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I liked that they cut him off when he said Avengers up, and they cut him
that
off.
was cool actually. I like that because you know he's going to say it in another movie.
Avengers
I've heard people
Assemble.
complain about that. And it's a tease. It's going to happen. It's okay. He's going to say Avengers Assemble eventually. It's all right. It was nice.
Yeah.
And watching it the second time too, all he does is cock his head back. Unless you're a fan, you don't even know.
You
what
don't
he's
know
doing.
what the hell he's doing, except for all the people shouting "Assemble" in the theater.
Right, nerds. Yeah, and then this teaser.
Oh, the greatest stinger yet to come. We get a nice shot of an Infinity Gauntlet.
Being made like a machine.
Yeah, like a machine, and all of a sudden you see Thanos in the background, and he literally just says, "I'll have to do it myself," and he goes and reaches for the glove. I just wonder how that's going to affect the next few movies. He's going to have to get the gems. Like you said, the Vision, which he probably kills the Vision.
Well, it's clear that Thor's going to involve Thanos. Thank God.
Yeah,
that's going to be a much better movie just for that reason.
Well, he has to rip off the Vision one. Then he has to go to Asgard.
Hey, we're going to get Loki versus Thanos. Maybe that would be pretty fucking cool.
Nah, I think Loki's going to battle because I thought about it. Loki, if you remember in the end of Thor 2, Loki's playing Odin.
Right.
So Loki pretty much is going to just give him the stone. Like, please don't fuck up Asgard. Here's the stone. Go away. Just go away.
But that is not Loki, I don't think. I see Loki like feeling like he got
his ass handed to him by the Hulk. This is Thanos. This is God level now. You're not fucking with the Hulk who's just Ray. Now you fucking God level character. I think Loki knows his pecking order. I think he knows where he stands, and he wouldn't be stupid enough to send Asgard unless that's what Ragnarok going to be about. Like Thanos fucking rummaging through.
Well, if he's Odin,
Asgard and fucking people up left and right.
If he's quote unquote
now that
Odin,
movie,
I'll go all of Asgard against Thanos. Yeah,
I'll go see that fucking movie.
I'll end up seeing it.
Hey, big guy. Sun's getting real low.
So you guys want to just go over a few quick points?
Well, I just want to say that the teaser, one thing we I talked about with Paquito on the ride home is so much of this movie felt rushed. Like, we got to hurry up and get to this part. We got to hurry up and get to this part. And even the stinger was like, could you slow down a minute? Let's not give him a beat. Let's give him a moment to breathe. For me to go
creep around a corner, and watch him reaching in or something. Instead, it was just like reach in the microwave, grab it. I got to do it myself.
It was just so quick. It felt like a video game.
Donkey Punch.
It didn't feel like a proper teaser. So, and I kind of wish they'd had something at the end of the credits.
Honestly,
yeah, everybody was tweeting that out after. Don't stay to the end. There's no stinger this time.
But see,
it's just all those fucking Marvel credits.
Eric Larson even put it up on his. That's it. After the Thanos part, that's it.
And again, that's what was cool about the second showing is I just fucking bolted down the stairs and didn't have any problems getting out of there.
Well, the only problem I had is I wish they had shown, of course, the Thanos scene, which I love, but it would have been nice if they hinted another, like maybe what is it,
Black Panther,
Black Panther or something. something.
Doctor Strange.
You see some jungle something in the background and a character moving in the background. Or those are the stingers I like more.
So
I gotta agree with you. The Thanos one was a little too much. It was too much in your face because the original one where he says, these humans were promised to be an easy target. They court death, and you see Thanos turn and smile. That was cool. You just got a quick glimpse, a smile, and then you moved away.
Yeah.
Not this whole, well, I guess I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
I just
and there was a sense of this movie of checking off boxes.
Yeah.
So many boxes felt like it got checked off. But what I like is I thought it was a very entertaining movie. I think it's going to hold up really well to rewatching. I also think that this is the Avengers Iron Man 2, where I think it'll be a polarizing movie because there's just so much shit getting thrown at you. And I talked to somebody earlier today that's he's a comic fan, but he's not like a hardcore guy like so many people that we know. And he felt kind of lost in all this shit getting thrown at him. And I totally understood that because it's like they have a big moment where Hawkeye's newborn son is named Nathaniel Pietro.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me, I think they'd said the name Pietro like twice in the entire movie. And it's like
Miss Mac had no clue what the hell that was. I was like, oh, that was a nice touch. It was Nathaniel.
By the way, did she call him fat? Is that the joke that Black Widow had? She called him like the kid fat. What did she say? What was her joke there? Twice I've missed that joke.
Where at the end?
Where she sees the baby in the iPhone, and then she's like,
yeah, I didn't hear it either. I think there's somebody people.
I have to hear it.
Yeah, she's kind of mumbles it, and you can't.
Yeah, I thought she's called him fat. That's all I could pick here. But yeah, there's a lot of you don't really get a good introduction to the characters to the degree that would be nice, and a lot of characters I felt got really short shrift. This is a movie that was made so much for the fans. There's so much fan service in this movie. So of course that's speaking to me, but to like a regular audience member, I can see where they'd feel a little bit like put off because they didn't feel like
they don't get the joke.
They don't get the joke.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there like everybody, these other guys are laughing, and you're like, I wish they'd given more thought. But one thing I do like, The Winter Soldier is a really good movie. And I think it holds up really well to repeat viewing. And the Russo brothers are the guys who are going to be doing the next two Avengers movies. And what I like is they can go in there and do a better movie than Avengers 2. They can put in more heart. They can put in more time into those characters. They won't necessarily have as many boxes to check off. They're going to have 2 movies.
Dude, 9 months of film. I've already saw that.
Yeah. So
9 straight months of filming.
I think there's a good chance that they can make a better movie than the second Avengers. Maybe the first. God willing, that'd be great. But I like that the bar is in a good place. It hasn't been set so high that you can't overcome it. You can still make a better movie.
Yeah.
But it was, and it did have, despite its flaws, it still was so entertaining that you forgive it a lot of those flaws. So it's still a really good, entertaining movie, but there's room to improve. So
there was room to improve, and that's why I keep saying I don't think it was as good as the first one.
Definitely didn't have the
very
highs.
Iron Man 2-y feel, which a lot of people can be like, "Oh, you must have hated it then." No, because I liked Iron Man 2. It was just it's the action film of the bunch, right?
Yeah.
The first one's gonna be a lot of setup, introducing characters and how they all get together. The second one, you don't have to do that anymore, so it's just gonna be go 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 go, which it is from jump.
Yeah.
It's full throttle. Not a lot of slow moments. There are the little breakups with the talking head portions, which a lot of people were like, "Oh, you just threw that in there so you could set up the next action thing," which I think is crap. If that's the way you look at it, then you're not went into the movie hating it.
Yeah, you didn't understand the development.
Right, because I think that those were completely, for the most part, fairly necessary scenes, and they did flesh out characters using those. Again, some of the dialogue I didn't like in it, some of it was rushed, some of it seemed forced. That's fine, but I thought they were all fairly necessary. Except, again, like they could have chopped the Nick Fury portion off, or they could, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it needed to slow down for a second and set up the next thing. It wasn't just there to give people a breather for the next big explosion, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I do think, too, this is a movie that you'll enjoy more retroactively, just like with Iron Man 2. I liked Black Widow as a character after seeing Avengers, and so when I see her in Iron Man, the emotional connection is different than it was the first time I saw that movie. Well, after I see the Black Panther movie, I'm going to appreciate the setup of this movie more. After I see what happens to Thor and Ragnarok, I may appreciate this movie more. Yeah.
If Scarlet Witch becomes more awesome in the later movies, you're going to be like, oh, that's cool.
I suspect she'll be less awesome. But I really enjoyed her in this one. So
I get a big suspicion it's going to be less.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't
Especially
know.
because that costume of hers at the end of the movie was not a good. That was not an upgrade. It was all like everything was pushed up. It's like her whole lower half got pushed up to her chest. It was. She looked like, I don't know, Elvira or something.
So another thing.
Also, she didn't have the cool goth makeup anymore, which did not help.
One thing I want to know: Did you think any of the Tony Stark motivations felt forced at all?
Honestly, no. In part because Robert Downey Jr. just plays it so well.
He made it believable. He made it believable.
Because I mean, the movie is like an extended character assassination of Tony Stark, and because Robert Downey Jr. put his stamp on it, it still works.
You're kind of like, damn, maybe.
But did he walk away with that idea still in his head that he needed to create a police force?
I think that he never really lets it go.
No, I think that's what they're showing with the Vision. Is he's like, oh, it didn't work the first time, it's going to work this time.
And yeah, you're right. It's a character assassination. He was not truthful about not not knowing Ulysses Claw and only hearing about him, right? When really he did deal arms with that guy. He went behind their backs with Banner to begin with to try and do the Ultron, and then he went behind their backs again to get Jarvis in there. And he's just like, because you people Cap, you guys aren't going to let me do this stuff. You don't realize this is what I know, because he's just so damn cocky.
Yeah, and that does play into the original story too. Is that it's Mr. Fantastic and Iron Man. They're futurists. They're brilliant. They figured out what's going to happen, what has to happen, and these silly moralists like Captain America just need to step by the wayside because they know what has to happen.
Well, that's why they created the Illuminati.
There.
Oh no, that was Iron Man in that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and the first incarnation was like Professor X, Namor. I think Doom at one time was in it. Like
they've had a number of people come in.
I just always thought that was such a Lil Wayne.
I believe that Iron Man was in the Illuminati, but even if he wasn't, he has the mentality that would set that up.
Jay-Z definitely in the Illuminati. So anyway, I thought that was going to be something people were going to have problems with. We're going to be like, he just screwed up with Ultron. Why would he be doing it all over again? But
he thinks he can get it right.
I thought, he's so confident he can get it right. So I was curious how you guys felt about that. Like, right. Now he's going to try and do. So I'm glad.
Robert Downey Jr. did a fantastic job.
All right. So
and they've done a good job in those movies of showing those character flaws in Tony Stark.
Yeah, he's been very
consistent.
It
makes sense. Yeah.
He and Cap have been very consistent throughout these movies, which is good that they're going to kind of be some focal points in next one.
And that's something that's great with Chris Evans too, is you see him get progressively more comfortable in that character. And unlike Robert Downey Jr., he's not trying to get out of the suits. By the way, this Cap outfit in this movie was excellent.
I thought it was pretty good.
I really liked it.
It's probably the best. It was definitely better than the last one.
I really like the silver and black costume, I have to admit. I like that suit. I know it's not a good, pure Captain America costume, but that's one instance where, because Cap can be so gaudy at times, I really do like the whole super soldier stealth Cap shield suit. It just looks really good to me. But if you're going to do a more classic style Cap suit, this one looked really good, and it got over a lot of the problems that were in the first Avengers Cap suit. That one was definitely kind of dorky. For a guy who's that cut to look that bad as in the first Avengers movie, I'm glad they fixed a lot of those issues.
Okay, well, speaking of costumes, I didn't like Iron Man's armor in this one. I was kind of
It looked kind of weird.
It was too much yellow.
Yeah, they're trying too hard to come up with new armors for him.
Just keep the same fucking armor.
Really forced. And they need to go back to the comic books and look at some of the better armors. They keep trying to create new armors from whole cloth, and they're not as good at it as the comic book guys. Yeah. Do the Kevin Hopgood costume. Even Heroes Reborn was a more interesting suit than anything we've seen
with the
in Iron Man since. And instead they're doing the stuff like in the second one, the suitcase one. And it's unnecessary. They're not being smart with that.
So here's my take on this movie. Thought it was good. I do feel that maybe this movie, like how Ant-Man happened to Ant-Man, this movie changed what it was supposed to be. So I think that Age of Ultron was going to be a big time film, and then at some point it had to turn into a setup film. It had to become a stepping stone for Infinity War and Civil War, instead of it just being a huge, now we got the team together, we're going to fight this big threat. So I think that Ultron kind of got a little diminished because of it, and he stopped kind of being the focal point of Age of Ultron.
Right.
It wasn't really Age of Ultron, it was Age of set up our next two movies. So I think that kind of hurt it, but I think given all of these things, you got all these characters, it's a sequel, it's going to be a stepping stone to bigger, you could tell, I almost feel like they were more excited to get to the next movies, right? They're more excited about Civil War and they're more excited about Infinity War than they are about Ultron, right? Given all that, I think it's about as good as it was going to be. I know you say there were improvements to be made, but I feel like if any improvements would then sacrifice setting up the next two movies, which obviously was not negotiable. These movies have to set up Infinity War and Civil War. So with all of that, I just think this is about as good as it was going to get. That's just my
good
opinion.
Point.
I would say too, this is sort of the Temple of Doom.
Not bad, and I would not bad. Would see it again.
Not great.
Not better than the first Avengers.
No.
Just because it doesn't have those awe moments in the first Avengers, where we had never seen
the highs
these.
Aren't nearly as high in this one as in the first Avengers.
So like the Hulkbuster Hulk scene, awesome scene. Not as good as when all of the Avengers start fighting the Chitauri and Hulk's ripping the big slugs apart and Thor. It just doesn't, because that was like, holy shit, they're destroying New York and it's this global threat and we have all these awesome, because it's the first time it happened.
Right. And that's the thing too, is they do it twice in the second movie. They do it at the beginning and they do it at the end, where they do that full spectrum battle thingy. And you're right, it just doesn't work quite as well either. Although the second one,
it's fine. I guarantee you, if you went back and kind of compared it, you're like, whoa, the effects are way better in the second one. You know, you're remembering it more, but because of the instances that it took place, you're having to fight that off, right?
Yeah, that's a question. Do you know if they've even started writing like the Infinity War?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I just know the only thing I read is it's supposed to be 9 months of intensive filming straight for both movies.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like
once you've got all those people together, well, and you got to understand too.
Okay,
I don't know if you appreciate how big Infinity War is going to be, especially Part 2. You realize the Netflix shows are going to tie into that.
Yeah,
no,
dude.
I'm telling you, Marvel, Luke Cage and Iron Fist, they're all the Guardians of the Galaxy. You're going to get involved with that.
When we finally get to our Daredevil podcast, I'm about halfway through, and I've met friends at work that have no idea about comics and absolutely love Daredevil, and we're going to go see it. They actually asked me to, two of them, and they're female. Okay, no love for comic. Asked me, do I need to see Avengers 1 to understand 2? I said, really? No. I said, if you want the character development, yes, probably want to watch the first one. But if you just want to watch a really good movie, no, you don't. You can walk in there and they explain everything pretty quickly. You get the gist of it.
You can say, do you know it's a superhero action movie? And they go, yes. Then you can probably go walk in and watch.
But they're only interested in, not so much because it's hype. They both love Daredevil. They were talking about Daredevil.
You know what? I bet if you watched Avengers 2 first and then watched Avengers 1, Avengers 1 would be even better. Because all of the Hawkeye interaction with Black Widow would work way better. Because you would have seen the past. You would have seen the future past.
No, you would have seen the I guess
you would understand all the shit they've been through, and you realize, oh shit, Hawkeye's got this family.
It's like me when I saw Serenity, and then I went back and watched Firefly, and it made me like Firefly that much more because I knew where they were all leading up to.
Super.
And maybe I wasn't like really because Joss Whedon connection.
Oh,
I wasn't like people who watched Firefly. So a lot of them hated the River Tam character because they kept teasing it out, and the payoffs in Serenity. But since I knew the payoff, it didn't bother me so much to have this crazy chick on the ship for no good reason.
Sure. And doesn't Avengers 1 start at an underground shield base?
Yep.
Which is where Avengers 2 ends. It's so weird, dude. It ends with them moving into an underground shield base.
All the dots connect. I'm telling you.
So if you watch the end of the first one, or end of the second one, where they move into an underground base, and then the first one starts, and they're blowing the underground base up. Holy shit. Whoa, super weird.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
A Chinese finger trap.
We received a Google Plus follow from Matt W. and Twitter follows from the 13th Crusader. All comics evaluated. Bogus Books, Chris William, Comic Reflections, Couch Commandos, Emily Rockland, Foreign Editions, Gamma Brains, Keith Knudsen, Kevin Culp, John Shanahan, L Lists, Larry W. Looper Jr., Legless Corpse, Long and Late Movie Show, Meet My Good Friend Pod, Michael Lee Graham, Miranda Blue, Paul Spratt, Retroist, Bob Actis, Sloth at SI Auths, Sloth Facts, Steve at Steven Scharar, Super Bro Movies, Tangent Bound Network, Top 10 Blogger, True Dash Friendship, Uproar Comics, Wasteland Rocks. We received retweets from Chris William, Comic Tweets, Floto Span, Lord Horstocles, My Star Wars Story, Pure BS Podcast, Ryan C. at Trash Film Guru, and Simon Donovan, as well as Twitter favorites from Aces and Eights Press, Adam Krongold, Alexi Guerreros, Amino Acid Comic Book, Amy Royland, Andy Fosberg, Annalise of the Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks Podcast, Anthony Durso at the Toy Room, Baked English Podcast, BestEbooks.ca, Ben Cohen, Barai Van Uden, Bradley J. Tim, C. Miller, Charles Washington, Comic Relief Podcast, Comical Podcast, Christina at Poison Blowfish, Crowd Resources, David Fior, David Golding Artist, Ed Moore at Teal Productions, Elijah Medge, Greg A., Humorous Books, Jeff Rothman, Jessica Sun, Joanna Sawyer, Joseph Tavano, Justin Quizon, Kyle Pettit, Land of the Creeps, Moldwitch, Myth-Making Etc., Nerdgasmo, Odell Abner Dracula, Orbital Comics, Pirate Mike, Plop Cartoons, Professor Riptide, Reese Finley, Richard Calvert, Run with Comics, Siskoid, Small Time, Snake Oil Comics, Tanya Malone, Uproar Comics, VidiUp.com, and Wetsuit at Lucid Cadet. Dr. G, Man of Nerdology, reshared episode 36 on his Google Plus page, and Plus One episodes 34, 38, 39, and Anchor. Mr. X at The Man Called Mr. X, as well as Stephen Courtney added us to their Follow Fridays. Adam Blackmoon at Captain Midnight listed us among his hashtag Sunday Comics, hashtag Monday Madness, hashtag Tuesday Titans, hashtag Wednesday Warriors, hashtag Team Thursday, hashtag Thursday Comics, hashtag Follow Friday, hashtag Saturday Cinema, hashtag Sunday Sleepers. This week's Merry Marvel Marching Society, consisting of folks that both retweeted and favorited episode-specific tweets, includes Adam Blackmoon, Al Mega First Crusader, Angel Velasquez, The Anti-Fascist, Ask the Moon, Between the Pages, Bronze Age Babies, Charlton Hero, Cheryl at Piggymouth, Chris Perry, Chris Thompson, City War, CJ, The Comic Syndicate, Count Druncula, Darren and Ruth Sutherland, Dead Vinyl, Eternal Rage, Fantastiverse, Film Reel Podcast, Firestorm Fan, The First Bat, Future Primitive, Hall of Justice, Joseph Crawford, Kanish Kabbalah, Cord Industries, Larry W. Looper Jr., Lizzo, at It's Lizzo, Longbox Graveyard, Lord Horstocles, Marvel Incorporated, Marzo Khalif, Miss Impolitic, Miss Moneypenny, Mr. X, Odyssey Unleashed, Outside Longbox, Party Roll Podcast, Randy Caldwell, The Penultimate Randy Michael Smith, Pittsburgh Nerd Pod, Sir Kayak, Stephen Courtney, Superhero Speak, Sin at Alias Scarecrow, and Ziggy at Mr. Jaffrey. The Marvel Superheroes Podcast is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by Marvel Entertainment. All characters mentioned and audio clips employed are believed covered under fair use, with no infringement intended against their copyright holders. The views expressed in this podcast are assumed legitimate, truthful, and solely possessed by the speaker.
Are you making fun of my Irish accent? Bollocks! I like the movie. I like the movie. Bollocks! Like it better than the first one. It was good. Bollocks! Where's my pint? Bollocks!